So we have a couple agenda related items to do before we get to you, but you will be before public comment, and then if there are any public comments on it, then you'll have an opportunity to answer those questions as well. Okay, so just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you.
And you know, if I don't see you and you're raising your hand, you want to speak, then just kind of turn your mic off and start, and I'll call on you. Okay. Just, okay, great. So we are at 7:01. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for Upper Darby Township Council Committee/workshop meeting for February 3rd, 2021. At this point in time, we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, as well as having a moment of silence for those who have been lost. And Mayor Keffer has the flag in her screen. So I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible,
of liberty
and justice for all.
And a moment of silence. Thank you. Great. So at this point in time, I call the meeting to order. Can we get a roll call vote from Councilwoman Billups?
Yes, thank you. Councilman Tunis,
And
Present.
there you go.
Councilman Gwen,
Present.
Councilwoman Billups is here. Councilman Silva,
Present.
Councilwoman Blackwell,
Present.
Councilman Burke,
Present.
Councilman Siddiq,
Sorry about that. Yes.
thank you. Councilwoman Faralia,
Here.
thank you. Councilman Barnett,
Here.
Councilman Wagner,
Here.
and Council President Wentz.
Here.
All present and accounted for.
Great. And I just want to point out that we also have Mayor Keffer, CAO Rongioni. We have solicitors Kilkenny and Richardson. And we have Ms. Dobbins, Alexis, and a whole fabulous team from Drexel Line to do a presentation. And I will allow them to introduce themselves when the time comes. I don't want to butcher your name, so I apologize in advance. So next up, we have rules for meeting decorum. Upper Darby Township Council and residents will maintain professional respect for each other. Council encourages free speech, however, civility is required, which would prohibit threats, profanity, scandalous, impertinent, and redundant comment, or any comment the discernible purpose of which is to disrupt or prevent the conduct of the business of the meeting. At this point in time, I'm going to pass the ball over to Drexel Line Development for your presentation for the final land development proposal. So thank you very much. Take it away, whoever wants to lead.
Hi, this is Dave Bramble speaking. Unfortunately, the Zoom is telling me that the host has turned my camera off, so I can't turn it on. I don't know who the host is. Maybe they could turn my picture back on. But I'm not that pretty, so maybe not.
Might not have been dressed appropriately either.
No, I think you should be okay now.
There we go. Somebody turned me back on. Thank you so much. My name is David Bramble. I am the managing partner and co-founder of MCB Real Estate. And we have a team that will take it and make a presentation. But I just wanted, before we started, to take the opportunity to thank all the folks in Upper Darby who have assisted us to really jumpstart this thing and get it going. The mayor and the CAO for their guidance and input, the town council across the board for supporting this project, and the zoning hearing board, and the collective efforts to really sort of push this thing along after a lot of delay and a lot of struggle. We've had extensive cooperation from all of the folks in the township, the engineer, the zoning officers. Everyone has been working collaboratively to move this along, and this is a complex project. The kind of project, the projects that MCB does are complex. They take a lot of time, and they don't happen without the kind of cooperation that we've been able to achieve here to move this forward. And we don't always, you can't always get that level of cooperation. And so we do want to flag it and say thank you for all of your hard work in helping us move this forward. And I'm going to hand this off to the team and say again, thank you, and help us get to the finish line. Still a little bit of work to get there, but we're really excited to be rounding the home stretch here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. This is Mark D'Amico, and I'm similarly videoed out here, and I can assure you that I'm nowhere near as good looking as Mr. Bramble. I'm here tonight with my co-counsel Ken Schuster, David Bramble, of course, Dan Chabelle, Drew Gorman, and Roberto Espina of Bowler Engineering. Starting my video here. There we go. So what we thought we'd do is just give you a little background. I know you've seen the plan on at least a couple of occasions, and we got a council preliminary plan approval on December 9th. So we thought we'd give you a little bit of an update on what's occurred since then. On December 20th, we appeared before your zoning hearing board requesting them to reaffirm all the relief that had been granted for the project in 2018, and that included a request for the additional 48 apartment units. On January 21st, just a week and a half ago or so, zoning hearing board voted unanimously to approve all that relief without condition. Also in December, we resubmitted the full set of land development plans to the Delaware County Planning Commission. On January 21st, we made a full presentation to the Delaware County Planning Commission. And after that, we're pleased to report that the county recommended approval of the subdivision and the land development with consideration of staff comments for the land development. And I believe Delaware County has forwarded the letter to that effect to your township engineer, Mr. Rongione, and others at the township. It also in December, in terms of the land development plan process, the owner's engineer, Boulder Engineering, submitted revised plans to the township. On January 6th of this year, the township engineer, Mr. Galante, issued his latest comment letter. And since then, I'm pleased to report that Boulder and Mr. Galante have been in constant communication to address the remaining comments with the goal of submitting a final submission shortly. And the owner is confident that we'll be able to address all outstanding comments to Mr. Galante's satisfaction. The outstanding comments, for the most part, don't actually affect the site plan, where the parking spaces are, where the buildings are, that sort of thing. They're more technical in nature, including such issues as the sewer planning module, which is one of the permits that the developer requires in order to start flowing the sewage after the development is complete. That requires addressing infiltration and inflow issues, or I&I. Those issues have been worked through at this point and been furnished to the township to be finalized and presented to the Darby Creek Joint Authority. The owner's architect is currently preparing elevations or renderings of the buildings that will be presented to you in 2 weeks at your February 17th council meeting. They're not yet complete. with just minor modifications to the site plan. Again, the site plan is in final form. There will be additions, including the gateway sign, which has been agreed to at the intersection of Township Line and State Road. There will be electric charging stations added to the site plan at locations to be coordinated with Township engineer. There'll be some minor striping and traffic directional signs based on comments of Andy Heinrich, the Township's traffic consultant. And then we're going to work with the Township engineer to create an additional passive recreational area near the apartments.
Mr. Mark, may I interrupt you, please?
Councilman Siddiq, please let me handle it.
I cannot hear it.
I understand.
Okay.
Every time you turn away from the computer, your sound is very poor and it's difficult for us to hear exactly what you're saying, and you're kind of in a tunnel.
I'm sorry. Is this better?
That's far better. Yes, It's
Okay.
great when you're facing the computer directly. So I don't know if you can put your papers on the,
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that. Well, you want me to just run through the whole litany again?
I think after the Delco Planning Commission approved, that's where it really got funky.
Okay, again, I'm sorry. So,
Sorry about that.
yeah, so again, in December, Bowler Engineering resubmitted the land development plans, a full resubmission. Mr. Galante issued his latest review letter on January 6th. And since then, Bowler and Mr. Galante have been in constant communication to address the outstanding issues. And the owner's confident that we're going to be able to satisfactorily address all those issues to the satisfaction of Mr. Galante. We don't have the site plan up, but we can certainly put it up. It's largely the same as the site plan that we presented to you in December in connection with the preliminary plan approval. So the outstanding comments in Mr. Galante's review letter largely relate to technical matters such as the sewer planning module, which requires addressing inflow and infiltration issues, or I&I. Those issues have been worked through at this point and have been furnished to the township to be finalized and presented to the Darby Creek Joint Authority. The owner's architect is now preparing elevations to be presented to council in 2 weeks at your February 17th council meeting. The final submission that will be made by Bowler Engineering will have some slight modifications to the site plan, and they'll include the gateway sign that was agreed to. That will be at Township Line and State Road. There will be electric charging stations added to the parking lot at locations to be coordinated with Mr. Galante. There will be some minor striping and traffic directional signs based on comments of the township traffic consultant, Andy Heinrich. And there will be, we'll work with the township engineer to create an additional passive recreation area near the apartments. So those are the things that have occurred since we last presented the plan to council. And as I said, the team is here and available to hopefully answer all of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that our engineer, Mike Galante, is also here with us. So that was my bad in my introduction part. So can someone point out in this map things that changed, or, like the things you pointed out where the recreational area by the apartments are, okay, in that corner. Gotcha.
Dan, as well as along some of the trail areas too.
Gotcha.
One thing, Mr. D'Amico, we meant to mention is that the plan will also incorporate some small changes around and the ShopRite as we incorporate some of their fine tuning in connection with their elevations and final planning on their part.
Okay. Your sound was disappearing as you moved away from your mic. Sorry.
As I said, we'll also be incorporating some of the comments and fine tuning to the ShopRite itself as we collect and incorporate some of their comments as well as elevations into the plan.
Great. And do we have updated plans for the ShopRite as of yet?
They're in process and development. We've got some footprint tweaks to it that we're incorporating. But we don't have the elevations yet. They're still preparing those.
Okay, thank you. Council members, do you have any questions? Let me, can you raise your hand in Zoom or start to speak so that I can call on you officially? If you have any questions.
President Wentz, I have a couple questions.
Yes. Go ahead, Councilman Gwynn, or sorry, Burke.
That's fine. Thank you. You mentioned there's a little work left to go to get there. Is that 2 months, 3 months, or do you still think that the finish date of next year and demolition this year, I believe, February or March would start the same? And on Mr. Galante's report number 10, would one of the issues be the bridge that he brought up in his report? Would that be one of the bigger issues that you still have to get to or not?
Dan, do you want to just kind of address the entitlement thing?
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Councilman Burke, we are very close in terms of our completion of the the process of input and revising our plans with the township. As you may have heard in our prior presentations, we have substantial number of outside agencies that in which we require approvals. We need to obtain a FEMA approval because of the proximity to Darby Creek. We need to obtain a joint 105 permit, which has to do with the basically that we're in a floodway, in a flood zone, and in proximity to Collinbrook and Darby Creek. There are things like historical, geological, et cetera, factors that have to be approved by the DEP. In addition, we have an individual NPDES permit that we need to obtain, which is because prior to our purchasing the property, there was a dry cleaners there that had some contamination that has in fact been closed out. But once we excavate, then there's a whole process that DEP requires you to undergo. And so and it has to do with, when you excavate, how you handle the soil, et cetera. And there's an environmental covenant that we have to revise. So there are we do have our PennDOT HOP, but we have some various DEP approvals that will be required and FEMA. So we're working as hard as we can to try and compress the time in which we can obtain those approvals. We're hoping it's really a matter of a small number of months, but we believe that we'll probably be ahead of the curve with the township before we obtain our DEP approvals. But we're doing everything we can to compress that time frame.
Well, I appreciate those answers, and I'm glad that you guys are still committed to the project because each side of the town and every part of the town needs something new, and I'm glad you guys are still pushing hard. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Any other council member? Go ahead and turn your mic on and ask. Councilman Gwynn, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Go ahead.
I appreciate the comments that were made relative to the charging stations and the passive recreation area and the gateway sign. Do you know or see a chance of putting in solar charging or solar collections to create off-grid power?
At this time, because of the nature of the way this development is structured, the additional building, storage, residential are going to be developed a couple years down the road because we have to first open the ShopRite, and so we need the storage area for the staging. We need and the ShopRite is going to continue to operate in a portion, and a portion of its building actually lies within what we call Lot 6, where you see the residential. So in order to understand where we might have an opportunity to do those kinds of things, we'd have to understand when, at that point in time, how they could be incorporated, if at all, into those buildings. So at this point, we really can't commit to that because of the way the development's structured. But when we started this, we didn't even know about charging stations 4 or 5 years ago. So things, we're
Understood.
We're meeting the time frame as it evolves.
And the last question is, do you have a breakdown of the 190 apartments as to what are 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, et cetera, in your plan?
We are working on that. We do have a segmentation study which provided a recommendation for the breakdown, but it's one thing to have a theoretical number of types of apartments, and then it's another thing to actually put those type of apartments in the physical space. So we are working on the schematics right now to get a final breakdown.
Dan, you cut out for a second, so I sort of jumped in and then you came back on. Councilperson, what we anticipate doing is taking that segmentation study as we fine tune the schematics and the available area to develop in. It will be generally in proportion to what was outlined in that segmentation study as part of our zoning relief.
Can you repeat what that was? I don't think everyone was at the zoning board hearing. And Councilman Wagner, I see your hand. I'll get to you after we solve this one.
Thank you.
Dan, if you'll give us a minute, I'll be able to get you an answer on that.
Sure. We can hop ahead and then you fill us in when you get there. Is that cool?
That'll be fine.
Okay, Councilman Wagner, go ahead.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I'm wondering if you can give us a reasonable estimate of the number of people who will be employed in the construction part of this project and the number of people who will be employed permanently at the shopping center after it's completed. Are you able to estimate that for us?
We do have a report. I apologize. We were our intention was just to provide an update today, and then we can give you a full report on the 17th when we present again for final approvals. We did have I think we did present the economic study for preliminary approvals, and we can present that information on the 17th.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm really not asking for specifics at the present time. There's inevitably some people listening tonight who weren't at previous presentations. Is it fair to say that a commercially significant number of jobs will be created by this project?
Well, we'll provide you the number that our economic consultant provided to us, and I guess people can assess whether that's significant or not. But I mean, it's a significant amount compared to right now, obviously, for the current development. So we would think it's significant, but we can present the information. You can make your assessment.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. As I've said in the past, and I know many others have, I think this is an enormously important project to Upper Darby Township, and I, for one, welcome it greatly as the councilman from the 3rd District, which will be directly benefited by it, as will the entire township, because it's at the gateway to the township. So Godspeed to you in this project, and I hope it comes to a happy and successful conclusion.
Thank you, Councilman Wagner. Go ahead.
Let me just jump back in and I'll answer the earlier question regarding the segmentation.
Mm-hmm.
1 bedroom, 1 bath, about 42%, about 20% of 1 bedroom with a den, and about 38% on 2 bedroom, 2 bath.
Any studios?
I won't say yes and I won't say
Okay.
no. We're
Once
really
you start drawing it up.
What I can tell you is that the initial layouts were actually going to come up a little bit short of the 190 because of constraints on the physical building. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, realistically, once you start drawing out how the floor plans are, that's what determines what.
Yeah. I mean, you'll end up with odd spaces, and you'll end up making a decision to go from a 2 to a 1 or a 2 to a 1 with a den, or, a 1 to a studio, maybe even because of just the way the configuration dictates the design.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Councilman Silva.
Thank you, Council President. As I was looking over some of the documentation that you provided. I'm sorry.
Please continue.
Yeah, so I was looking over the traffic study, and it makes mention that Anthony's Restaurant and Banquet Center will remain and be redeveloped. Is that going to be repurposed, or is that going to be kept as it is? Because it was my understanding that it was not going to be kept.
Anthony's will not be in the new development. In order to move the apartments further away from the stream, we had to take down that building, and Anthony's will be relocating to another location.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just saw it on the traffic study here, and
well, the one thing that I can tell you is that with the redesign, with the without Anthony's and without the 70,000 feet of office, the projected traffic is anywhere between, depending on the day and the time, anywhere between 80 and 100 vehicles less per day with the new plan than as we had originally presented back in 2018.
A slight detail: 80 to 100 at the peak times, meaning morning and evening peaks. So it's a meaningful reduction actually in traffic.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, Solicitor Kilkenny.
Yes, thank you very much, President Wentz. I just wanted to bring to council's attention, I know it had been discussed, in the approval resolution you have before you, not for consideration for tonight, but for review tonight, any of the people reference PennDOT approvals and such. If you look at the paragraphs of that approval resolution that you have before you, and we'll have before you again on the 17th, they're required to go ahead and get those approvals anyway. So if PennDOT does not sign off on this, if DEP does not sign off on this, or the Conservation District, or anybody that has regulatory authority for this project outside of Upper Darby Township, then this the approval that the Township Board makes is null and void. So I just want everyone to be aware of that, what you're doing is you're conditionally approving all these, allowing them to move forward, submit things, draw permits, but ultimately they're going to have to grant, to get approvals of all those outside agencies. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any other council members? If you raise your hand, you pop up to the top of my screens that I see. So if anyone else has a question or concern, either raise your hand through Zoom or turn off your mic and start to talk.
I do. I raise up my
Councilman
hand
Siddiqui?
many times. Yeah.
No, there's the physical hi, my hand is up, and there's the doing it via Zoom. So, but go ahead. And I think.
Okay. First of all, being a longtime resident of Upper Darby Township and also council person, I really would like to thank the MCBH developer from the bottom of my heart. And I would like to say welcome to Upper Darby. And I will support it 100%, move forward this project for the benefit of this township. With that, I would like to ask during the construction, if there be any interruption with the other businesses, and if it happen, then do you have any plan to talk with other business people that how can we all can work together?
Well, I can assure you that there are daily conversations going on, and I mean that literally, with the supermarket, because you can imagine the impact of having this, at some point in the development process, that supermarket has to come down, the existing store that is, in order to provide a parking field for the new store. And so I am not exaggerating, spending and continuing to spend countless hours on how to minimize that downtime as much as possible, including evaluating how we can shuttle if necessary, et cetera, just to come up with a way to keep that store operating. We're also talking to a few of the smaller existing tenants, Wells Fargo, for example, on how we might accommodate them in one of the new spots next to the ShopRite on the small building facing State Street. But as you know, for the most part, the center is fairly vacant at this point, other than the ShopRite.
Thank you.
Okay, any other council members? So when I say raise your hand, if you go to the bottom of the Zoom, there's the reactions option, and in there is raise hand option, and you click on it, and then I can see it.
Laura, Don Burnett.
Councilman Burnett, yeah, that you're doing the physical. So go ahead, Councilman Burnett.
Thank you very much. Tonight it was reiterated that there are a few amenities that have been agreed to during our previous discussions with the developer. Those being the gateway sign and the addition of vehicle charging stations. But we also discussed a requirement, and I want to make sure we're all still on the same page, that there will be free access between Woodland Avenue and State Road, which means that people that enter from Woodland Avenue, which is a directional one-way street, into the apartment complex next to the Drexel Line Center, that is the Drexel Line Apartments, which are not affiliated with the Drexel Line Shopping Center, and that there is a need to have free access to both the Building 1 and Building 2 apartment buildings by the occupants of those buildings, and access between Woodland Avenue and State Road. And is it fair to assume that that's still agreed to as a condition?
Absolutely.
All right, and I'd like to see that put into the resolution that we will ultimately consider adopting. And I don't believe the vehicle charging stations are in that resolution, and they should be as well. This project must move ahead. We cannot continue to live with the conditions that exist there. The vacancies, I think they serve to create a bad image for Upper Darby. So I'm very pleased that this project will move ahead. It's no surprise to anyone that I'm not much in favor of the additional apartment units, but that's water under the bridge at this point. It was decided by the zoning hearing board that they shall be permitted. But I am a supporter of this project otherwise, and I will be pleased to see it move ahead. Any new information on schedule? Because I know at one point you were considering to begin work there in April. Can you update us on the schedule, please?
Well, April is still our goal. I think Mr. Chabelle did a good job of outlining the extra permitting, and as did Mr. Kilcannon, that this project is subject to. We're staying on that every day. We need probably a little luck of the Irish as we get around the corner here into March, fittingly on St. Patrick's Day. But I think that we right now aren't ready to cede that we can't get to April 1. We are doing everything we can to get there, including pulling out any political stops we can to lean on DEP and some of the other agencies outside of the township.
Can you talk a little bit about sequencing? Maybe that would be helpful to
Sure.
get a sense.
Assuming April or sometime in April we start, the first thing that occurs on this site is the demolition of everything but the ShopRite building and the spaces contiguous to it, meaning the old, where Anthony's is located, the old mini mall that became the medical mall with Crozier and the hardware store, and all the buildings to the west all the way over to State Road. We have about a 7 or 8 month period of time where we'll start to do extensive site work, including all the underground utilities, and bring the site up. As you might recall, the State Road portion, that corner, that quadrant there where the Wawa is to be, is basically a hole, and that gets brought up close to State Road elevation. So tremendous amount of fill in that flood zone, with the idea of delivering both the pad site for Wawa and the pad site for the new ShopRite and the shops next to it in October, November of 2021. While we're doing all that work, we'll also be working around the PNC to reroute their drive-through. And we would hope that that is also completed, if not in the fall, by early spring of 2022. ShopRite would start construction in late fall, October, November of this year. And sometime around or about June 1st, as they're completing their building and ready to start putting in fixtures and furnishings and equipment, they would then close their store or give it back to us, and we would knock down that building and start the preparation of the parking lot. As I mentioned earlier, ShopRite will be staging in the area where the future storage facility will be. That's where that's where their entire production for block and steel and everything else has to reside while they're building the store. And then when they are able to give us back the store, we knock down their building and we finish out the parking lot in front of the ShopRite. When that is completed, we would then shift to the vertical construction of both the residential and the storage. That's a thumbnail sketch of probably about 75 pages of a schedule.
What's the schedule for Wawa?
Wawa, we think Wawa actually will probably be, other than PNC, the first to open here. I should mention also that when we do get the ShopRite knocked down, we would also, in addition to the residential or finishing the parking lot, we'd be able to finish out the parking and build the small building out by State Street between the far east entry and the main entry where the signal is.
Are you actually going to build a structure there? Or are you going to wait for a tenant?
No, we'll build that building irrespective of a tenant.
Okay, thank you. One final thing, there are a number of waivers required in the approval, for the approval of the land development. I don't see any of them mentioned in the proposed resolution, but I believe they do have to be at some point.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they were incorporated in the preliminary approval.
Yeah, they were all granted already.
They were granted.
Were they all granted?
And would just carry
Yes.
forward into the final.
Okay, we, Sean, do we actually grant them or just preliminarily grant them based on a preliminary approval? I thought it was
In
preliminary.
my experience, you always, the preliminary approval is the time you grant the waivers. The final approval is just to essentially clean anything up, but I'll reference that they were all granted as a separate condition, just to make sure there's no ambiguity when I finalize the draft of this.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other council members with questions or concerns? If you're physically raising your hand, then turn on your mic and start to speak, because I can only see 4 windows right now. Okay, I'm hearing none. So thank you very much for your presentation. We are gonna, on our agenda, we are going to move into public forum. So there might be some questions within public forum. So if you guys can hang out so that we can get, make sure our residents don't have any specific questions. They will definitely have more for the next meeting, but just in case we got some for this meeting. So, okay, so at this point in time, Ms. Dobbins needs to come on. And Ms. Billa, so if everyone can turn off their microphones, and Ms. Councilwoman Billups, if you can turn on your mic, since you and I are the timers for the public comment part. So Ms. Dobbins, are you good to go? There you are. I can see you now. All right. So at this point in time, we will open the public forum. And go ahead, Ms. Thomas.
Olivia Taylor, 204 Kent Road, Upper Darby, PA. Dear Council, I am angry at the fact that no one is talking about how dangerous it has gotten in the last year in Upper Darby Township. No one is talking about, parentheses, Friend Cemetery. In the last 6 months, there have been 3 shootouts inside the cemetery. The most recent one was in January. Imagine you come outside your home only to see your local police department on every corner, along with armed agents. Armed with AR-15s, there were 3 agents on Kent Road, assuming there were 3 on Powell Lane as well. All of this is happening in a residential area speaks volumes. It also shows the level of danger has reached a new height to have that kind of firepower in a residential area. Also, there are times an awful smell of decay comes from the cemetery, mainly because these bodies end not embalmed. I have contacted the 2 health department in the past about the smell. I know cemeteries and funeral homes have certain laws, question mark, question mark. When does the safety and welfare of residents come into play? We have rights as well. We a right not live in fear whenever there's a funeral service going on over there. This administration wants to pass these ordinances. The residents, they'll have to pay fees concerning our homes and what we do in them. Yet the residents on Kent Road and Powell Lane can't enjoy our homes out of fear of being shot whenever there's a funeral service. This administration needs to step up and do something. This has gotten way out of control. End of comment.
Thank you. Okay. We will look into the concerns in reference to the cemetery. So
are we allowed to ask which district it is?
It's in the 6th district.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So we will definitely look into the concerns. And Ms. Dobbins, if you can forward her comments to us to do that. that would be great. So thank you.
Also, since it's my district, I would like to involve in this one. So
Yes, of course. When,
Yeah.
yes,
thank you.
definitely. Always the district council person and then the large council members that also cover your district. So, okay. All right. So, and next,
Brian S. Taylor, 7258 Lampert Road, Upper Darby, PA. Good evening, council members. For the past 6 months, Tailor-Made Vets, Recovery Without Barriers, and Crozier Hospital EMS have been performing community outreach in front of the SEPTA 69th Street Terminal. During this time of outreach, there are multiple tasks completed. A hot meal is provided for our homeless community, along with wellness checks provided by the EMT. In addition to assisting those seeking treatment into area rehabilitation centers, Tailor-Made Vets' duties are to lend a hand and to provide veterans resources. There are also hygiene products, masks, and clothing on site. Because unfortunately, the homeless population numbers are growing within our area. This population consists of a variation of citizens, which are the mentally disabled, young adult who have aged out of the foster care programs, seniors, and veterans. I also want to advise you about a very disheartening issue of the combination of the COVID-19 during Code Blue within the community. All shelters can only operate at 50% capacity, which leaves many out on the street during a careless winter. I couldn't understand the mental horror that provided someone. There was a night that Mr. Scott Alberts provided a heating lamp along with the local VFW post, providing a warming center, which in turn help with wellness checks along with the process of intake to get individuals into the shelter for the night. Can I ask why these efforts have stopped and how can this process be reintegrated? Also, this is a formal invitation to the council to attend one of the outreach nights to gain a better understanding of these issues our community is facing. We are out tonight and again next Friday. There has been a relation build with SEPTA along with the homeless community in our area. Creating this bond was necessary for our efforts to provide these services. If there are any inquiries, feel free to email. Blessing to all from United States Army retired Brian Sharif Taylor. End of comment.
thank you. Councilman Tunis?
Yeah, I just wanted to just notify the public that we have been meeting as a committee regarding this subject. We're going to be connecting with the county and seeing what we can do moving forward. This is something that we have recognized, and we do plan on addressing it moving forward.
Okay, and CAO?
Yeah, absolutely. And the administration is eager to participate in those meetings that council is having, and we've been invited to some of those and are happy to continue to participate. I believe it was the second Monday after Mayor Keffer was sworn in that last January, that we organized a meeting that included the SEPTA police and the county, as well as folks from the hospital to try to start addressing the issue. So this is something that's been on the mind of the administration as well, and something where we've been trying to coordinate efforts with nonprofits as well as institutional players at the county. The Code Blue night that was referred to in the comments is something that the township went out of our way to try to do and will continue to try to do. It's not really accurate to say that the efforts have stopped. The efforts have been ongoing since Mayor Keffer was sworn in. We've tried to make spaces available and take measures to protect people when the temperatures drop. So all of that is ongoing, and we're happy to actively participate in it with council and the county.
Great, thank you very much. Councilwoman Blackwell?
And based on the National Institute of Health, this is considered the vulnerable population. So we are working with this, and the administration has worked with this as well to address this issue. And this is not just only in Upper Darby. We're trying to get all the surrounding counties to be involved so that we can be working on one accord and be working in the same silo.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. I gotta grab more paper. And Ms. Dobbin, go.
Council President Wentz, the next comment comes from someone named Frank Kefferson at 11 College Ave, Upper Darby. After the last meeting where this person submitted a comment, it was brought to my attention that there is no such location in Upper Darby Township as 11 College Avenue. I did double check that with the finance department to just again check and see if, you know, there could be a taxpayer somewhere else with a similar location. So I'd like to know if you would like me to read the comment or not.
So we're saying there's the address per Mayor, please go ahead.
I'm just going to say that I went to College Avenue and I saw with my own eyes that there is no 11 College Avenue. And this is a public meeting. Unfortunately, we're not able to be in person. And so we are relying upon the goodwill of people to be truthful about what property they own here, and that they can, that they have a meaningful question or comment. And so thanks to Frank whomever from 11 College Avenue, we're going to have to look at all the addresses now. And, you know, that's the way it is going forward. Until, you know, hopefully as soon as possible, we will have in-person meetings. And then you can say what you want to say in public in front of people.
But if it's still a false address, then it's, you know, it still shouldn't be. A false address is bad, so. Yeah. Councilman Wagner, was that a hand comment about this? Is your hand raised for this conversation?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say that I agree entirely with what the mayor just said. I support that comment.
Great, thank you. So Ms. Dobbins, yeah, if the address does not exist, then yeah, we don't need to hear it. And if Frank Kefferman, if you do actually live in Upper Darby Township, make sure you actually give us an address of where you actually live so that we can hear your voice at the meeting. So is that our last public comment?
No.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Joe Clark and Sadie Thomas, 75 Houston Road. We are aware that parking restrictions have been overlooked due to the pandemic and more people being home due to virtual learning, working virtually, and layoffs. Since then, the parking in the 7-1, as I'm sure is the case in many other areas, has gotten out of control. Now it is becoming a hazard and could even result in lost lives. In the first week of January of this year, DCMH EMS were dispatched to a call at 74 Houston Road for respiratory difficulty. They arrived to find a cardiac arrest and requested additional resources. UDFD and additional DCMH units had to park out on Pembroke. On January 11th of this year, Upper Darby Fire Companies, UDPD, and DCMH EMS were dispatched to 73 Hartley Road for a building fire. As a result of cars illegally parked on the no parking side of the street, and fire trucks were forced to park on Pembroke, and crews had to walk down to the house in the middle of the block. Luckily, there wasn't anyone trapped. The fire was small and contained to the rear of the house. Last night, I called 911 for a full-sized U-Haul truck parked on the no parking side of Houston Road that was parked there through the storm. This truck was being used to store construction debris as they gutted 84 Houston Road. Cars were having difficulty getting through, and if fire or EMS had needed to, they wouldn't have been able to get through. When PD did arrive, they just kept going, not even a fine. People are also quite frequently parking in the no parking X spots at Essex and Houston, as well as in front of all the hydrants and on all the corners. We ask that council and the administration work with UDPD and Parking Authority to do something about the parking issues, not just here, but everywhere in the township before it gets someone killed. Thank you, the Clark family. End of comment, and that concludes public comment for this evening.
Great, thank you. CAO Rongioni.
Yeah, sure. A couple things to point out there. First, I just want to say the 7-1, that's a political terminology and not a terminology that we use in the application of government services. So just for folks to be aware of, that's a political subdivision and not something that we use when allocating government resources. But the issue is incredibly important, and parking enforcement, especially safety violations of the type that Mr. Clark and his family described, are an important priority of the mayor. We actually have had questions from council on this before. We've hired more ticket writers, and we are stepping up safety patrols in neighborhoods outside of the central business districts. So it is something that we are aware of and trying to actively address through the hiring of more part-time ticket writers. And in specific, it certainly is something that I will follow up with the police department about, because if a complaint was made, I'm not certain that 911 is exactly the right place for that complaint, but the fact that the resident feels that the police department drove by and witnessed something dangerous, I absolutely will follow up and talk to them about that, because again, those safety violations are a priority for the administration.
Great, thank you very much. And Councilman Tunis?
Yeah, I was going to ask the administration to look into essentially the concerns that the constituent expressed. I just wanted to know, since we now have the parking authority overseeing, would that just be a request more for them, which I believe Mr. Rajon answered, rather than the police department?
Sure, and absolutely, the police department still has the authority to issue those types of violations, and especially overnight and off hours, the police department is on duty 24 hours a day. So if you observe a violation like that at a time when parking department employees might not be working, the police department is still the appropriate enforcement mechanism. But in general, during normal operating hours, we are trying to use the parking enforcement personnel for that.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Great, so as far, oh, Ms. Blackwell, can you hold 1 second?
Yes.
To the presenters from the Drexel line, thank you so much for your presentation. We are going to talk about the resolution for you. If you want to, it's a little farther down on our agenda, but it's the first thing within the committee reports. So if you want to hang out for that, in case there are other questions that come up via council specific to the resolution, you are welcome to. But if you need to hop off, I just wanted to give you that opportunity as well. We greatly appreciate everything you've done. And so I don't want to waste your time if you need to go somewhere, but I know that council may have some questions when we do get to your resolution. And I'm sorry there wasn't any questions from our general public for this meeting, but I'm fairly certain they will have questions for the next meeting.
Well, Councilperson Wentz, if you feel like there's any possibility that any member of council might have a question, we're happy to stay on.
Awesome. That would be great. I just wanted to, before we continued this discussion, I just wanted to check in with you. So
yep, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilwoman Blackwell, go ahead. I just wanted to, a little housekeeping.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not sure if this question should go under public safety, or because we're talking about parking, be brought up at this time. So constituents have come to me stating that during this inclement weather, that people are putting chairs or holding spaces for parking. How are we addressing that, and what should we be doing, or what should I say when folks come up to me stating, this person held this parking space, can I park? I mean, what are we doing, or how should I address that?
Thank you. CAO Rangione?
I think I might ask for some help from Solicitor Kilkenny here as I answer this question, but what I would say is that parking is at a premium, and it's at a particular premium during these snow events. So we understand that it can be frustrating and difficult and contentious. I mean, we strongly encourage neighbors to work together and be friendly and cooperative and try to figure out a way, try to figure out a way to work with each other when, it's frustrating. You dig out a parking spot, you spend 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour and a half digging out your car, and then you go to the Wawa and somebody else comes and parks in your spot. That said, strictly speaking, I don't believe it's legal to preserve a parking spot with a chair or anything.
It is not legal. So that's the long and the short of it. Everything Mr. Rangione said is by human nature practically correct, but legally you don't own that parking spot. It's owned by the public.
Okay.
Owned by the township.
Okay. All
So
right.
you just have to encourage folks to work together and be good neighbors. We understand that it's tough, but it is certainly not enforceable if they put a chair there. Yeah.
So we can't do an ordinance, or we do something to say you guys can't do this per se, right?
Well, they
can't do it right now, actually.
Right.
It's a matter of enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to say when I have my constituents coming to me and this is what's happening. I mean, this happens all over our entire beautiful country. So I just need to know what is the proper, the right response. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so seeing that was all of the public comments, so public forum is closed. Next up, we have the Honorable Mayor Barbara Ann Keffer. Take it away, Mayor.
Okay, unmute it. So good evening, everybody. I have a couple updates. First off, I would like to thank everyone who worked on the snow removal and the trash and recycling crews for doing a great job over the past few days. Your efforts during the storm are deeply appreciated, and we received a lot of positive comments about both facets of Public Works. I'm also pleased to announce that our partnership with the Share Food program to distribute food boxes to our community members will continue every Wednesday and Saturday, 11:30 a.m. at the Township building on 100 Garrett Road, and that will continue until further notice. We thank the Share Food program and our staff and volunteers who have been a part of our efforts to help Upper Darby residents in need for it's coming on almost a year now, actually. Upper Darby residents should have received a trash and recycling newsletter this past week. It details our recycling program and outlines the Township trash and recycling holidays. We have received a lot of feedback from the community about the change from the traditional printed 12-month trash and recycling calendar to this new newsletter format. And just to let you know, we chose the new format in order to keep printing costs down and to reduce the amount of paper waste. For anyone who may be interested, a printable monthly calendar is available online at upperdarby.org/trash. In February is Black History Month, and I would like to issue a proclamation in recognition of this very important event. Whereas during National Black History Month, we celebrate the vast contributions of Black Americans to our community's history and identity. And whereas we strive to uphold the founding principles of the United States, that all people are created equal and have the right to be treated equally. We know that it is the time to address the deep racial inequities and the systemic racism that continue to plague our nation. And whereas the national theme for Black History Month 2021 the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity, explores the African diaspora and the spread of Black families across the United States. And whereas approximately 35% of the families in Upper Darby identify as Black or African American, and whereas Upper Darby is deeply committed to equity and inclusion. This stance includes the cultural and racial affirmation of our staff and community members who identify as Black or African American, including Parking Enforcement Director Sakella Coles and Licensing and Inspections Director Christopher McSween, who are the first 2 Black American department leaders in our township, and Upper Darby Fire Chief Derek Sawyer, who is also the fire department's first Black American member. And whereas special recognition is given to our local well-known Black Americans, including State Representative Margot Davidson, who was the first Black American elected to represent the 164th District, Dr. Monica Taylor, who is the first Black American member of Delaware County Council, Jerry Sanders, who was the first Black American County Sheriff, and Nathaniel Goodson, who was the first Black American member of the Upper Darby Township Council. Whereas Upper Darby strives to close the equity and outcome gaps for Black American residents through policies and practices that reflect the experience of Black American residents, ensure greater access and opportunity, and honor history, heritage, and contributions. And whereas our community is stronger because of the diversity of our population. And now, therefore, I, Barbara Ann Keffer, Mayor of Upper Darby Township, along with Township Council, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2021 as Black History Month in Upper Darby Township, and encourage all Upper Darby residents to honor Black American history and culture. Related to this, I am also happy to share with you that we have created a walking tour that features 7 spots of interest along the Underground Railroad in Upper Darby Township. The map for this is a self-guided tour and is available on our website and social media. We are proud of our rich history and our local connection to the Underground Railroad. And I would personally like to thank the Historic Commission for their hard work and continued dedication to developing a more extensive trail to help the community learn more about the subject. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So next up is actually me. And on that note, the Council Events Committee will report on what the council is doing as far as Black History Month. So I won't take that away from them, but they will be announcing that later on in the meeting. I just want to acknowledge that we had an executive session this evening to talk about personnel and litigation. There was a side conversation on the Super Bowl, so I should just acknowledge that. And we did have a conference call over the weekend before the storm started to get an update on the plans of the storm. So I just want to report officially on that as well. I just want to thank all the township employees that took part in the snow removal and the running of the township during the snowstorm. You guys did an awesome job. The mayor mentioned positive responses. I heard nothing but positive responses in reference to the work that our crews did. So thank you very much for all of that. And I wanted to thank residents who expressed concerns about Resolution 0421 during our last meeting. Township Council, the chairs of the Finance and Municipal Services Committee did meet last night to divide up that resolution into sections so that all council members would have an opportunity to weigh in on some part of it, as far as making some changes and updating it, and making it so it makes more sense for us. And I do want to thank Solicitor Kilkenny for bringing that resolution to our attention. It gave us a chance to really look at how all of our fees have been established over the years. And so if they did not put it in one consolidated resolution, we would have never realized that so many things were really funky about that. So I just wanted to thank him and Solicitor Kilkenny, or Solicitor Richardson, for their work on that, bringing it to our attention. So we're going to be having committee meetings in the future to really kind of work on that and get it to a better place. And we hope to bring it back to council in the next couple of months as soon as possible. It's a high priority. So things we wanted to work on have been put on the back burner because this is a real priority to get nailed down. So just wanted to thank everyone for the work that they've done and all the work they will do on this project. So thank you very much. So that is it for me. So at this point in time, we're going to move on to the committee reports. Planning, Zoning, and Building Code Committee chairs Councilman Gwynn and Billups, members Councilman Bonnet and Tunis Jr. We have resolution 0721, and can the solicitors give us a reading on this resolution?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Madam President. Obviously, this is the resolution that has been discussed from the presentation from Council for Drexel. I just emailed to Council a copy of the Delaware County Planning Department's recommendation for approval for final approval. I just got a copy of that earlier today during the meeting, emailed it out, and we'll include that in a final resolution that's before council on the 17th, if you decide to move forward tonight. I've also emailed Councilor Bonnet to get some potential language as to his concerns related to the access issue and the charging stations to make sure that is included. And I will also reference the preliminary approval in the final approval to make sure we button up any questions that the waivers weren't granted. It's my opinion, once they're granted in the preliminary, we're fine, but I'll reference it in final just to make sure that issue is buttoned up. So what I'm going to do then is read the therefore clause and lower of this resolution, which is very similar actually to the preliminary resolution that you passed a couple months ago. 1, prior to the recording of the plan, applicant must address to the satisfaction of the township engineer the comments and conditions contained in the January 4th, 2020 MG Engineering Review Letter. To the extent such comments are not wholly addressed by the latest version of the plans. 2, prior to the recording the plan, applicant must address to the satisfaction of the township traffic engineer the comments and conditions contained in the January 6, 2020 Heinrich and Klein Associates Incorporated Traffic Review Letter, except to the extent any comments are superseded by or inconsistent with the PennDOT highway occupancy permit issued to the applicant dated August 31st, 2020. Prior to the recording of the plan, applicant shall consider all applicable comments contained in the Delaware County Planning Department's letter, I believe it was January 21st. 4, applicant shall comply with the Upper Darby Zoning Hearing Board's June 28, 2018 decision and all conditions opposed therein, and obtain any additional zoning relief and time extensions necessary to the recording of the plan. I'm also going to address that and change that to reference the approval, the most recent zoning approval, to reference both of those in paragraph 4. So that will be amended. 5, applicant shall provide a gateway sign at the intersection of Township Line Road and State Road. Sign is subject to approval by the township engineer. 6, applicant must obtain any necessary approvals and reviews by the Delaware County Planning Department, Pennsylvania DEP, PennDOT, or any other necessary outside agency, and obtain any necessary planning modules, approvals, or permits before the plan is recorded. 7, applicant must complete all required easements and or maintenance agreements and or declarations, including but not limited to a stormwater management facilities operation and maintenance agreement and form satisfactory to the township engineer and solicitor prior to the recording of the plan. Applicant will provide all necessary legal descriptions for any necessary easements. 8, a revised recordable plan should ultimately be submitted for township administrator review and approval that addresses all requests for further plan details, additions, corrections, and clarifications set forth in the above mentioned review letters. 9, prior to recording the plan, applicant shall execute a land development agreement and financial security agreement drafted by the solicitor and post financial security in the form of a letter of credit or cash escrow to guarantee the installation of all public improvements associated with the project and amounts recommended by the township engineer. 10, all outstanding township fees, engineering fees, legal fees, and any other professional fees associated with the review and approval of the application and plan shall be paid in full before the plan is recorded in accordance with Section 503 of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. 11, this resolution shall bind the applicant and the applicant's successors and assignees in regards to the pad site for the property intended for future development. The applicant or the applicant's successors or assignees must obtain any necessary township approvals, relief and or permits, and pay all applicable fees unless additional relief is obtained prior to any construction of a structure on the pad site. 13, applicant shall comply with the terms of the stipulation of settlement entered into Delaware County Court of Common Pleas for the zoning approval docketed at 2018 5951. 14, new deeds for any new lots must be approved by the township engineer and recorded contemporaneously with the plans. 15, if any condo or a similar unit association is formed, the applicant shall submit the association declaration and approval prior to recording the plans. Such declaration shall provide township with the right, but not the obligation to enforce the restrictions, conditions, and covenants of declaration recording any common facilities and or controlled facilities in the event the condo association shall fail to do so. For its purpose, the township shall have the right to impose a lien on each unit and shall further be entitled to exercise any other rights, remedies it may have under law and equity to collect the amounts dispersed by the township to cure the defaults. Waivers. On December 9, 2020, applicant was granted 9 waivers from the township subdivision and land development ordinance during the township's approval of preliminary plans for the project. No additional waivers have been requested for this plan. This resolution does not and shall not authorize the construction of improvements or buildings exceeding those on the plan. An applicant shall be required to record the plan prior to proceeding with any land development. Furthermore, this resolution and the approvals and conditions contained therein shall be rescinded automatically upon applicant or applicant's agents failing to accept in writing all conditions herein opposed within 7 days of receipt of this resolution. Such acceptance is to be evidenced by the applicant or applicant agent's signature below. And that concludes my reading of this resolution with the caveats I just mentioned, which will be included before the 17th for your review.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions or concerns on this resolution? Councilman Gwynn? You gotta turn your mic on because I turned it off during his presentation.
Just one. There were a couple areas on the forms that we had that were left blank. They were referencing dates. I assume they will be filled in. That's the only point that I wanted to bring up.
Okay. Anything else? Any other council members have any questions or concerns? All right, I'm seeing none. Oh, that's so weird. Okay, so then Councilman Gwynn, is your committee prepared to move this resolution forward to the next meeting?
I am prepared. I will ask my committee if they have any comments to make. Please present yourself with your comments.
I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Nothing on my end.
And I think they've all been covered, Bob, in previous discussions, and
Matt,
I'm satisfied
okay?
with that.
Okay.
Alrighty. let's move it over.
All right. Well, thank you very much to Drexel Line Development Team. Thank you so much for
Thank
all
you.
your hard work. It looks great. So we will be looking for the answers to the questions we asked that you said you will have for the 17th. That'll be awesome. And hopefully we'll have more questions from our constituents also at that time. But thank you very much. And we will add this resolution to the agenda for the 17th.
Thank you. We look forward to
Thank
seeing
you.
you on the 17th.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank
night.
You too.
Good night.
All right. So next up, we have resolution 0821. Can the solicitors give us a reading of this one?
Thank you, Council President Wentz. I'll pull it up.
Excuse me.
This is the resolution of Upper Darby Township granting final land development plan approval to Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, SEPTA, for a C-Cane parking lot at 325 North Avenue. Okay, I'll read the therefore, everything after the therefore clause. Now therefore be it resolved by the Upper Darby Township Council that the plan is hereby granted conditional final land development plan approval subject to the satisfaction of the following conditions. 1, prior to the recording of the plan, applicant must address to the satisfaction of the township engineer comments and conditions contained in the November 19th, 2020 MG engineering review letter, including but not limited to complying with the township engineer's recommendation regarding tree placements per the waiver condition below. Number 2, prior to recording the plan, applicants shall comply with all applicable comments contained in the May 21st, 2020 Delaware County Planning Department review letter to the satisfaction of the township engineer. 3, prior to recording the plan, applicant must address to the satisfaction of the township traffic engineer the comments and conditions contained in November 17, 2020 Albert Frederico Consulting LLC traffic review letter. Number 4, applicant shall comply with the Upper Darby Township Zoning Hearing Board's December 17, 2020 decision and all conditions imposed therein, and obtain any additional zoning relief and time extensions necessary prior to recording the plan. Number 5, applicant must obtain any necessary approvals and reviews from the township engineer, township traffic engineer, Delaware County Planning Department, Pennsylvania DEP, PennDOT, and any other necessary outside agency, and obtain necessary planning modules, approvals, or permits before the plan is recorded. Number 6, applicant must complete all required easements and or maintenance agreements or declarations, including, but not limited to, a stormwater management facilities operation and maintenance agreement, in form satisfactory to the township engineer and township solicitor prior to recording the plan. Applicant will provide all necessary legal descriptions for any necessary easements. Number 7, a revised recordable plan shall be ultimately submitted for township administrative review and approval that addresses all requests for further plan details, additions, corrections, and clarifications set forth in the above mentioned review letters. Number 8, prior to recording the plan, the applicant shall execute a land development agreement and financial security agreement drafted by the township solicitor and post financial security in the form of a letter of credit or cash escrow to guarantee the installation of the project's public improvements in amounts recommended by the township engineer. Number 9, all outstanding township fees, township engineering fees, and township's legal fees and any other professional fees associated with the review and approval of the application and plan shall be paid in full before the plan is recorded in accordance with Section 510 of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. Waivers. The following requested waivers from the township's township subdivision and land development ordinance and stormwater ordinance are hereby approved or denied as indicated, sections 303 and 304 for relief submitting a separate submission for preliminary approval prior to final approval is hereby. Section 805A7 for relief to permit the driveway on North Bishop Road to intersect the street opposite a through street, Seacane Road. Section 405 for relief related to groundwater recharge on the property as the infiltration on site is limited and the minimum infiltration requirement has not been met, but applicant will promote infiltration and reduce stormwater runoff by adding previous paving, amended soils, rain gardens, landscaping, or other means to reduce stormwater runoff volume and promote infiltration through a manner and to the extent approved by the township engineer. Section 816A5 for relief from the tree replacement regulations requiring each tree to be removed with a caliper greater than 12 inches when measured at a height of 36 inches from the ground due to limited planting on site, but instead permit tree replacements as recommended by the township engineer, either off-site or on-site, or payment of a fee in lieu and this resolution shall bind the applicant and the applicant's successors and assigns. This resolution does not and shall not authorize the construction of improvements or buildings exceeding those shown on the plans. An applicant shall be required to record the plan prior to proceeding with any land development. Furthermore, this resolution and approvals and conditions contained herein shall be rescinded automatically upon the applicant's or applicant's agents' failure to accept in writing all conditions herein imposed within 7 days of receipt of this resolution. Such acceptance to be evidenced by applicants or applicant's agent's signature below. So ends the reading.
Great, thank you very much. Can I just get a clarification? The waivers talk about a preliminary approval, but the resolution header talks about a final land development plan. So
final.
I can answer that
Thank
question.
you.
Yeah, the applicant is requesting a waiver from preliminary approval to go right to final approval. So they want to do preliminary and final as part of a single submission. They're actually on the line right now. Dan Corrigan from SEPTA, they could talk about the project if there's any questions, along with representatives from Pannoni who could discuss the project as well. And then Dan, if you're here, if you could show your face, that'd be great.
Yes, that would be gregreat because I was trying to figure out who all the other people were. So that's awesome.
Good evening. This is Dan Corrigan from SEPTA. Just here to introduce myself. We have Jake Medendorp on the call as well.
Good evening, everyone.
Great. Is it possible for you to show us your plans and give us a little bit more information beyond the resolution about your plans?
Yeah, Jake, can you bring that stuff up?
Yep. Yeah, I got the plans up here. Okay, you should see the PDF. Did that come through?
Yep, we see it.
Okay, great. So just kind of a brief overview of the project as a whole. So this is phase 3 of the SEPTA Seacane train redevelopment project. So the first phase was on the south side of the tracks, and it was the improvements to the parking lot. The second phase was the addition, the additions of the additional platform, as well as the station structures. And so now we're into, and all that has been completed. We're now moving on to phase 3, which is to provide the additional parking to support the SEPTA riders who are using the train station. So through a couple of things here, SEPTA had purchased the lot here off of Bishop and the lot here off of North Ave, and then they secured an easement through the rear of these two lots here off of Bishop. So the two lots that they own will contain asphalt parking lots, and then the rear easement that they procured will just be a drive aisle that connects the two lots together. As we said, ADA parking is proposed down here by the one platform. there is an existing sidewalk that will connect into, that connects out to Bishop Ave. As far as stormwater, there is a proposed underground basin that extends, I'll just highlight it approximately here, underneath this portion of the lot. As we noted in the waivers, the soil conditions out there do not promote infiltration. So it'll be an MRC basin as stipulated by the PA DEP, and it's being reviewed by the Conservation District as we speak. Like Mike mentioned, it will have a pervious liner so that any infiltration that can occur, if there's any sorts of variations in the soil, it will have that ability to infiltrate. But if not, then it really acts as just a slow release basin that provides water quality and is designed to mimic infiltration and release water back into the stream system in a similar way as if it were actually in the groundwater and had infiltrated. So we touched on the DEP. It has gone through PennDOT for the driveway on Bishop Ave, and we are working through the final review letter with them now. It's been resubmitted and it's in their court. So we expect to get our approval for that in the coming weeks. We have worked with both Mike and Al Federico with the township, addressing their comments throughout the whole process. Another thing we did have to go through was through the zoning hearing board. The use of a rail station is permitted only by special exception. So because this was in regard to the lot here that they just purchased off of North Ave, being that it was a residential lot, a parking lot to support the rail station was classified as the use for the lot would be, the rail station. So we went through the process at the end of 2020. We attended 2 hearing board meetings and received the approval for the special exception. So that's kind of the project in a nutshell. If there's any questions, we're happy to answer.
Council members, if you have any questions, can you either unmute yourself and start to speak, or go to the bottom of your screen to the reactions, click on that and get your raised hand. So Councilman.
Okay, I have a question regarding the MRC basin.
Yes.
Actually, I'm not sure who to direct that question to.
You can go with myself, Jake. Go ahead.
Why was that used as compared to any other mechanism?
Because the site doesn't infiltrate. The soil conditions out there, this site doesn't percolate. And that can be observed with the existing basin that was put in with phase 2 next to the station platform. If you go out there, you notice that there's always a stagnant amount of water that's sitting in there, as well as plantings that are typically found with stagnant water and wet soils. And so when we look back at the historic infiltration testing, the percolates were below the recommended rates by the state. So we weren't surprised that that basin ultimately failed. So knowing that and not wanting to set ourselves up for failure and having a BMP that wasn't working appropriately in the future, we went with the MRC basin as approved by the DEP.
Okay, and will you have a cover for the anyone that needs to stand outside? You have a cover for them so that if it's raining or snowing, they can be protected?
While they wait for the train?
Yes.
Oh, yes. The site today in phase 2, the platforms were installed, and there's actually multiple buildings or structures rather, on either side of the train tracks, inbound and outbound of the city, that patrons can stand under.
Okay, now, I know this may sound, how would I say this? They're not doing it, but are they going to do any type of mechanisms so that if they're standing outside that they can have like things to start their, if they're electric cars, is this an idea? Is this a thought, electric cars to stop there, or even to charge their phones? It's just an idea. It's just a thought. Because they're not going to be at the 69th Street station. So since we're building a new station, will there be stuff so they can charge their phone or charge the car? It's just a thought. I'm just wondering.
Well, and Dan, you can chime in here. I guess just to be clear, there's no station proposed with this project. It's solely just the parking lot and drive aisle. The station was
correct.
previously constructed.
Yeah, correct. So again, the station's already done. This is just an additional parking lot. I know
Okay.
our power department is looking at charging for the various parking lots for, electric cars, but I'm not sure where that's at in terms of that study. They have to consider equity with everyone else as well. So trying to look, I know it's some sort of study, but not on my radar.
All right, just wondered because people are going to be parking cars, going to charge their phones and so forth. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay,
No
and
problem.
Councilman Silva actually had his hand up first, so please go.
Sure, that's no problem. The north lane is that where the apartment building is now, or is that just north of that, or where would that parking lot be?
The apartment building resides here. The train tracks come through here. Then we have the apartment complex, and then SEPTA purchased the first parcel to the north of the apartment complex and shares a property line with it.
Okay, and then one other concern is are you guys going to take any steps to prevent people using the parking lot as some kind of pass through to get around Providence Road, which can be pretty congested?
So those comments were originally received by the engineers from the township. So just a couple ways to mitigate that. One of the recommendations was to put in speed humps in the main drive aisle to kind of deter that, so it's not a fast pass through, as well as restricting the movements in and out of the driveways. So this is a right in only, and then it's a right out and left out onto Bishop.
Okay. And then I was wondering too if we would be able to receive it. I'm not sure if that's for you or but if we'd be able to receive any of the documentation here for like later review.
As far as the plans and reports?
Yes, please.
Yes, everything, if there's anything we can get you, we're more than happy to send it in. Everything was submitted electronically as well as in hard copies to the township. But if it needs to be passed along again, we're more than happy to do that.
Okay.
Very much.
Oh, well, yeah, we've seen everything for the Drexel line and I don't know, maybe we received it previously or what have you, but I would certainly like to review it in a little more detail if possible. Maybe that's something that the township has to do. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, we'll make sure to get the plans out to council.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Gwynn?
I just want to know if anybody else in the committee had any questions.
Well,
Michelle?
actually, okay, does anyone on all of
Committee.
Well, this is basically a presentation just like we just had Drexel line, so I'd really like all of council to weigh in if they have any questions, not just committee.
I usually start with the committee and then.
Yeah, I don't have any.
Yeah,
I don't have
well,
any grievances on this resolution as a member of the committee.
Don?
Bob, I don't either. Well, I do have one. The stormwater detention, is that strictly at the lot, under the lot that accesses Bishop Avenue?
That's where it's located, but it provides stormwater management for all the improvements.
All right, and
So
is it piped from the upper section?
that's exactly it. And I'll flip to the utility plan here for you. And give you a quick look. Here we go. It's divided into two. I'll go back to the overall. So you can see here that this parking lot slopes in the southeast direction, and there's inlets located along the parking lot. They are all piped down the driveway and down into the lower parking lot where it is received by the basin. And then it's managed here, and then it's discharged going back in through the same way that the basin and previous drainage was set up on the site. There's a culvert that goes underneath the tracks that everything connects into.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Bob, that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody on council? Seeing none?
Actually, I do.
Okay.
I was just trying to see if any other, because I only see a small snippet of our council members. Is there a map of where plantings and trees are going to be within the parking lots?
Yep. So right here we have our landscape plan. And so, you know, in coordinating with Mike, we took his recommendations and we planted, you know, as densely in every area possible throughout the improvements. The only places that we didn't plant, you can see up here along the apartments, we have steep slopes, 3-to-1 slopes tying back into the existing grade. So no plants were proposed there. And a similar situation occurs on the north side of the lot where we actually have a wall. So we're doing some plantings, fit them in where space allowed us to on the inside face of the wall, but we didn't put any plantings along the property line. A buffer is provided to the neighbor, and she was at the zoning hearing boards via the fence that we're proposing around the improvements.
Okay. And what is the percentage of impervious surfaces for the parking lot and driveway?
Off the top, I couldn't tell you. It wasn't part of the zoning calculations, but the majority of the lot, we did meet the interior parking lot landscaping requirements, but you know, the majority of the site is paved, except around the edges and within the perimeter islands.
Okay. Any other council members?
Council President, if I could again,
Go ahead.
is there going to be like a proposed walkway through or connecting the two parking lots, like a sidewalk of some kind?
Yes. So there is a sidewalk that leads from the existing platform and up along this western side of the drive aisle up to the northern parking area to connect the two lots. So
okay.
Patrons will not have to walk through the drive aisle here.
Okay, so it's just between the two connectors.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that area is sort of, I don't know, it's a little light on walkway, so that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
The only other thing I'd like to do is request the electronic version to be given to council. I know we had, for the committee, had a paper version at one point, but I'm sure it does include everything that's up to date now.
All the documents on Google Drive, I can make sure I get them out to the council members.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for showing us that information. So then, Councilman Quinn, is your committee ready for this to move on to the next meeting?
I'd like to move for the next meeting. I think everybody is in agreement.
Great. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. And if there's anything we can help you out with in the next 2 weeks, if you need anything other files, please let us know. We're happy to share.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry, I misplaced my agenda. Okay, so next up, we have a public hearing for ordinance number 3090. So if solicitors can give us a summary of this ordinance, and if Ms. Dobbins can come back on so that after the summary, we can begin the public hearing. So solicitors.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President Wentz. This is an ordinance of Upper Darby Township, Delaware County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, establishing vacant property registration, repealing all ordinances or parts thereof inconsistent herewith, and providing a severability clause. The Section 1 starts with the definitions of applicable codes, enforcement officer, foreclosed real property, mortgagee, vacant property owner. Section 2 establishes a registry of abandoned property within the township. Section 3 deals with the registration of foreclosed real property. for mortgage foreclosed properties, tax foreclosed properties. Section 4 deals with fees. Section 5 is the enforcement and civil penalties. Section 6 is the maintenance requirements. Section 7, inspection for violations. Section 8, the ordinance is effective immediately, and Section 9 is a repealer. So ends the summary.
Great. Thank you very much. So Ms. Dobbins, if you can come back.
Council President Wentz, there is no public comment on ordinance 3090.
Okay, so consider the hearing opened and hearing is closed due to no comments from the public on ordinance number 3090. At this point in time, can we get a motion to approve ordinance number 3090?
So moved.
So I see Silva and Tunis.
So
Are there-
second.
Well, Councilman Tunis beat you to it. So are there any questions or concerns on ordinance 3090? All right, I'm seeing none. Councilwoman Billups, can you please give us a roll call vote on ordinance 3090?
Sure. Councilman Tunis,
Yes.
Councilman Councilman Gwynn, you're muted.
Yes, that would have been me muting you when the solicitors are talking.
Sorry. I vote yes, but I see that it's scheduled for the February 17th meeting. That's why I thought this was just being held.
No, this is ordinance number 3090. This is our second reading and our motion to adopt. It's
Okay.
section C of our agenda.
I was looking at the final page for signature. It says the 17th.
Yeah, it does say the 17th.
It was for today because we had the final reading, so we will fix that.
Yeah.
But it
Okay.
was intended for today.
Other than that correction. I
All
approve.
right, we will make that a correction. Solicitor Kilkenny, is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay,
Councilwoman Billups is a yes. Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Councilwoman Blackwell,
Yes.
Councilman Burke,
Yes.
Councilman Siddiq,
Yes.
Councilwoman Faralia,
Yes.
Councilman Barnett,
Yes.
Councilman Wagner,
Yes.
and Council President Wentz.
yes,
All yes.
great. Thank you.
Yep.
That's wonderful. 7. All right, wonderful. Okay, so next up, we actually have the introduction of ordinance number 3092. If solicitors can give us a summary on this ordinance. We're hoping that we will do an official first reading, but we just wanted to have a conversation first.
Sure. Sure, I'll be happy to. This actually was in front of council previously, maybe about 6 months ago in the exact same form, and kind of got, it was actually referred to committee at the time. I believe committee met yesterday to discuss this, but I'll talk about it a little some more. You may remember a couple months ago, there was a validity challenge before our zoning hearing board as to the constitutionality of our ordinance. After that happened, I reviewed the ordinance at the request of the administration, along with Bob DiDominicis from Holston and Associates, who works closely with our insurance carrier, Arthur J. Gallagher, The reason being this area is very litigious. And in other municipalities, I've worked with Mr. DeDominicis and Holston on defending group home ordinances that have gone to the Third Circuit and the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, the federal courts above Upper Darby Township. So the restrictions that they had in place were brought to the zoning hearing board's attention were not in compliance with current federal law. So at that time, we drafted another ordinance that you have before you back about 6 months ago, as I said, and it went before council and then was sent to committee, and now we're back here again. So I'm going to go ahead and read the provisions of this, which myself and our representatives from our insurance defense counsel firm believe would be upheld in federal court at this time. It's constantly changing area law because under the Fair Housing Act and federal case law, the thought process is that folks that are in a group home need to be in residential neighborhoods to hasten their transition back to society. So I will go ahead and read this. Now, therefore, be it enacted by Upper Darby Township Council the following. 1, definition of family is any individual, any number of individuals living in a single family nonprofit housekeeping unit and doing their cooking on the premises when said individuals are related by blood, marriage, or adoption, living together as single nonprofit housekeeping use and doing their cooking on premises. A group home is defined herein shall be considered a family. Group living quarters, it defines that, which is right out of the federal statute. A residential facility uses living quarters by 4 or more unrelated individuals. Each of such is a person with a disability within the meaning of the Fair Housing Act. We also defined in our definition, as we recommend to many of our clients, a sober living home. While this encompasses many of the characteristics of a group home, it is distinguishable under the law and is separately permitted by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So a sober living home defined in your zoning ordinance would be a residential facility used by 4 or more individuals residing together voluntarily or by court requirement to recover from drug, alcohol, and or substance abuse. It does not include current federal use of addiction to a controlled substance as defined by the U.S. Code. Section 2, Section 105B of the Upper Darby zoning ordinance, it would be amended to read. So if someone goes ahead and requests a group home, it would go before a zoning hearing board. They would have to present their case, and they would have to meet certain standards as is defined in our zoning ordinance. So the special exception standards would be group home living quarters are permitted in all residential districts as a use by special exception pursuant to Article 4 of the Upper Darby zoning ordinance and the requirements and regulations herein. A, the lot upon which the group living quarters is situated shall meet the minimum area requirements established in the zoning district regulations for the zoning districts in which they are located. B, residents in a group living quarters shall maintain a single household unit with shared use of living areas, eating units, bathrooms, and food preparation and service areas, and shall share mean times and housekeeping responsibilities. Accommodations in a group living quarters shall be provided for no more than the maximum use of occupants or residents as permitted in the applicable building code. D, applicants for group living quarters shall include the type of care, counseling, or treatment to be provided at the site to the extent permitted by law. In each instance, medical care shall be incidental in nature and shall not be a major element of the care provided at the facility. E, evidence shall be provided with the application for group living quarters indicating that all federal, state, and or county certifications and licensing requirements have been met for the particular type of care provided. F, sewage Disposal and water supply facility shall be sufficient to handle the anticipated loading created by the proposed facility and shall meet all requirements by the DEP. G, arrangements for collection, storage, and disposal of solid waste granted by the facility shall be made by the applicant. H, notwithstanding any provision of the Upper Darby Township Building Code, the group living quarters shall have the following installed throughout the building and any attached buildings. A fire sprinkler system. The group living quarters must comply with the Upper Darby Township Building Code, and applicants seeking group living quarters you shall provide with an application evidence that the building size and layout is in compliance with the applicable building codes for maximum numbers of individuals intended to be housed in the building. J, off-street parking must be adequate to accommodate the needs of the residents and staff. At a minimum, the group living quarters must meet the minimum parking requirements of the district in which it's located. K, the group living quarters will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood district which is located. L, to the extent as not already addressed as above, including all buildings therein, must be in compliance with all federal, state, and local laws, including but not limited to the construction code and the property maintenance code. The group living quarters shall register with the township. The individuals responsible for the facility, general type of treatment care, maximum of residents and sponsoring agency, and shall provide the township in writing if any of the original information provided shall be changed within 5 business days of such. And any such registration of group living quarters shall quarter residents with any state and or county agency for emergency preparation purposes. Then there is a definition for sober living home. It goes into many of the same requirements that the group home deals with in A, B, C, talking about a distance of 500 feet, that they must maintain a single household unit. It talks about one of the big differences is D, which is the state requirements and the registration for a sober living home. Proof that a sober living home has policy, procedure, and regulations that substantially adjust the policy following. 1, applicant's immediate eviction from or voluntary termination or residency in a sober living home in order to protect the health, welfare, and safety of other occupants. And 2, of the occupant's eviction from an or involuntary termination of residency in the sober living home is not required to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the staff or occupancy at least 48 hours. The operator shall provide proof of and then notify the person designated as the occupant's emergency contact that they will no longer be a resident of the property. Contact the appropriate county or state agency. Provide the information from the applicable county or state agency to the occupant provided his or her release. Prior to any occupant's eviction from or involuntary termination of from a sober living home, the operator shall I, make available to the occupant's transportation to the address. 2, in the event that the occupant declines said transportation and otherwise has no permanent address, then the operator shall be available to the occupant transportation to another sober living home. Rules and regulations that prohibit the use of any alcohol or drugs at the sober living home or any recovering addict either on a site. 5, rules and regulations stating the facility cannot dispense medications unless licensed to. 6, rules and regulations shall direct occupants to consider it to neighbors. F, if permitted by law, supervisory and counseling and medical services may be provided, but only to those individuals residing in the sober living home. Then there's a requirement that they meet all sewage and water facility requirements. H, arrangements for collection, storage, and disposal of solid waste must be provided for. Sprinkling was provided for. A reference that they must comply with the Upper Darby Township Building Code and Property Maintenance Code. Again, they must meet off-street parking requirements for that district. They shall not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and that they shall meet the UCC. Talks about inspections and registration with the township. And the reason I often know that these ordinances are under a lot of questions and debate. It's an area of law that is constantly evolving. And one of the reasons why we try to make our ordinance legal is if there's a validity challenge and that's successful, then someone can go ahead and put that use essentially anywhere they want it until you fix your ordinance. So that's why we're always trying to keep these up to date and in compliance. So that was a long-winded explanation, and I look forward to any kind of questions or comments.
Great, thank you. Councilman Gwynn. You need to unmute yourself.
Excuse me. I know that your reading of it was very thorough, but I noticed that they have a requirement there to notify the county. Any requirement to notify the township when anybody gets evicted?
I mean, they must have, if you want to put that in, that's fine. I think most people are always okay with the county requirement, which mirrors the state law. But if you want township notification as well, we could add that in. I don't know how prepared our building department will be to monitor all that, but I can add that in if that's what council wants to do.
I tend to think they would like to have
Okay.
that, but that's up to the administration.
Okay.
And I think one of the major changes was that we went from 1,000-foot
To
distance
500.
down to 500.
Yep.
And we have been waiting for Peter and you and the other attorneys to get together and tell us what was happening. Now we have it.
Yep.
Councilman Burke.
Thank you, President Wentz. Question on the sprinkler system. I'm not sure about our code. Does the house have to have a separate line for a backflow preventer for the sprinkler system? And who would check that backflow preventer every year? Would that have to be certified by an inspector for a backflow preventer? And would the fire department inspect that house every year to make certification for the sprinkler system?
Brian, do you want to tell people what backflow preventer is?
Well, that protects your drinking water versus water that's going to be sitting in your sprinkler system before it goes off to protect your drinking water.
Thank you.
I don't know the answers to those questions. I think we could ask Mr. McSween or somebody like that on how that would be necessarily inspected or regulated. I only took the model language from what I know. I don't do that for a living, so I'd have to rely on an expert on that.
Yeah, and we'll definitely follow up for you.
Could Council Bonnet help us out on some of the language there, since he does a few of these things?
Councilman Bonnet, did you want to weigh in?
Specifically, Brian, which points would you like me to spend?
Well, the sprinkler system is going to be water in the system at all times. I know some places have a separate line into these homes for a sprinkler system for a backflow preventer, protect the drinking water of the residents in that group home. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I think a lot of this is all dependent upon the utility company that serves the water to a residence. In my experience, most of the times a separate service is required to feed the fire suppression sprinkler system. That's a very expensive, by the way, process to follow, but as far as an improvement, but it needs to be independent, usually needs to be independent of a domestic water system. So it's a separate line coming into the building and with a backflow preventer, which prevents feedback into the main delivery system. I would assume any one of these types of facilities under the code would be addressed more as a commercial facility than a residential facility by virtue of the nature of it, of its usage. I have, in my professional practice, I haven't done any of these, so I can't say I'm intimately familiar with the process, but that would be my best assumption as to what would have to be done with regard to the fire suppression system.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bonnet.
Anyone else have any questions or concerns on this resolution? Councilman Bonnet?
Thank you. I do. I'd like to ask the solicitor if the solicitor might know the answer to this. Under the definition of a sober living home, the sober living home is intended to address those with a drug, alcohol, or substance abuse. Are any of those descriptions indicative of disabilities that come under the Americans with Disabilities Act?
I believe so, yes.
They do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Silva?
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to find it here on here, but it's so are these structures are going to be subject to like annual inspections or
Well, so someone puts in an application to Mr. McSween for a group home or a sober living home. They are sent to the zoning hearing board for review, and we go through these special exception requirements. After the permit is given and they receive appropriate relief from the zoning hearing board, they would fall under the township's regular inspection program, whatever that is. So.
But that it would be like a rental.
They're treated by the law essentially as any other residential use. So if we're doing inspections, the law basically does not want townships to make the requirements for sober living homes so onerous that they can't exist, right? So we should be treating, once they receive the appropriate documentation and our zoning hearing board and staff are satisfied, then they should be, if we are inspecting other residential properties in that neighborhood based on complaints or whatever, we should inspect them, but we shouldn't necessarily be just singling out group homes. That's what I'm trying to say. It should be incorporated in the rest of our inspection processes.
Right. Because it would be discrimination if you isolated out the group homes versus the other residents in the neighborhood.
Yes, that's the thought process of the ADA and the Fair Housing Act. That's how the cases flow.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Since Councilman Burke has already spoken, has anyone else want to speak on this ordinance before we go back to Councilman Burke? Okay, seeing none, Councilman Burke.
Thank you, President Wentz. I wasn't trying to say to be inspected every year. I just know with the fire suppression system, backflow preventer supports the people that live there so they don't contaminate the water. And a backflow preventer should be and always should be checked once a year. And that certificate should be given to the township or the fire department so they do know that there's a second line in there. That's all. That's, a little bit of what I do for a living. That's all. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Councilman Gwynn, do you think you're...
So let me explain the process going forward if that's what council wants to do.
Yes, thank you.
So I will clean up this ordinance from here, but if council gets the gist of where it is, we'll get those answers from Mr. McSween.
Okay.
What would happen is, because this is an amendment to your zoning ordinance, it needs a public hearing, it needs to be advertised a couple times, and then it needs to be sent to the Delaware County Planning Department for review as well. So if you motion to go ahead and advertise this, it would probably likely be at your March meeting where it would be considered, because there are processes to go through because it's an amendment to your zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Just so everyone understands.
Yes, thank you.
We advertise this once and you pass it. It requires more review by the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning.
Thank you for that clarification. Councilman Gwynn?
Thank you. Sean, do these sober living homes and the other family groups, do they typically fall under the nonprofit?
Yes.
But
Yeah,
they can-
and it's, I can understand taxing authorities' frustration with that, but that's usually how it goes. If somebody wants to challenge nonprofit status, though, it's really not our bailiwick at the township level. That's something at the county level, if somebody had an issue with that. But that's not the first time I've heard that question in any municipality. Yeah.
I know, and
Yeah.
that's what we hear sometimes at the zoning hearing board things. Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yep.
Michelle?
I see Blackwell and Billups. So Blackwell?
So because Councilman Burke has mentioned the water quality, and I'm wondering, is it any possible way or any relation that we can have in regard to the Flint water crisis? I mean, is our water being tested?
No, it's not about water quality. He's talking about backflow. So when you have water coming into a building for a sprinkler system, right? And then you also have water coming into the building for washing your hands, for drinking, for toilet and so forth. Those
None
are
of that is water quality?
No, it's not, he didn't say quality. He talked about backflow for the sprinkler system. You don't want the water for the sprinkler system to backflow into your drinking water realm.
Okay.
You
So
want them,
backflow is not related to quality.
no, you don't want to drink your sprinkler water.
Okay. I'm just making sure I put the question out there for our constituents and our residents.
Yes, two very different things.
I put it out the question for them.
Great,
Thank
you. Councilwoman Billups?
Yes, thank you, Council President Wentz. So to answer the question about substance use disorder and alcohol, it is covered by the ADA. So as long as someone is successfully still being treated, it is covered by the ADA. Just want to mention that.
Thank
They're covered only if they have insurance, right?
Well, I mean, they're protected class.
protected by law.
They're protected class. They're protected class under the ADA.
But if they have no money, how are they protected?
They're protected class as far as discrimination. So let's say if someone is using alcohol, drugs, or whatever, you can't discriminate against that person because they are a drug addict or they are using alcohol.
I just was trying to figure out how they get protection, how they get paid. That's it.
I don't mean
They
protection.
don't have
I
any
don't mean
money.
protection- I don't mean protection in that way. I mean protection as against discrimination.
Oh, okay. Thank you,
So
Councilwoman.
protection from township discrimination.
Yes.
You know,
Thank
and so
you.
forth.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, essentially the protections built in this ordinance. Yeah.
Councilman Barnett?
Thank you. If I understand an earlier part of our discussion, it was said that if we do not adopt this ordinance, that an applicant could potentially put these kinds of facilities in any one of our residential districts. Is that correct?
Oh, well, yeah, they would get to be, I mean, if a judge finds that our ordinance is unconstitutional, then yes, then they get site-specific relief wherever they want.
Yeah, but effectively, we're giving them that right by virtue of this ordinance.
Yeah.
By simply saying that a group living quarters are permitted in all residential districts. It's an amendment to the zoning ordinance.
No, it is, but you have to, it's my opinion, that you have to provide for them in at least one residential district in Upper Darby. And the question you always get in that is, you have various ward council members, right? Almost everybody has a residential district. Picking and choosing of that becomes very difficult in my experience. If council wants to go a different direction, then I'm always open to it. I just,
I appreciate that, but I would suggest that and I think I'm correct on what I'm about to say, that every one of our residential districts, by virtue of definition in our zoning ordinance, exists in every one of our councilmatic districts. Therefore, I think we would be better served to select one type of zoning district and allow this by ordinance, and not automatically give an applicant the right to do this in those other districts. I'm not going to suggest at this point which one it should be. I have my thoughts. Be glad to suggest that to the Planning, Zoning, and Building Code Committee on which I sit. But I think by virtue of the language I read as it's being presented this evening, we are giving a clear path to an applicant to do this automatically if they meet the special exception requirements in every one of our residential districts. I would be opposed to that.
Sean,
So,
how could we refuse that for an individual to set up a home?
Well, you could say that this is a permitted use by special exception in, as Councilor Bonnet said, a residential district, several residential districts, all residential districts, however you want to do it. You just have to provide for it in a residential district. What townships were doing for a long time were essentially sticking these in industrial use districts or districts that were less desirable. So what would happen is people were in a group home and then they were isolated from society. So the law followed that you can't really do that. So you can limit it to a residential district or several residential districts. It's up for you as policymakers to pick what is appropriate. You can do that. You could take the approach that's in this ordinance, or one, my only recommendation is that it has to be provided for in a residential district.
thank you. Councilwoman Phillips?
Thank you, Council President Wentz. But do we want to be a township that set that kind of precedent? That's just a question. It's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it.
Yeah, it's not a legal one. It's a policy question for you, for council.
Yeah. Councilman Silva and then Councilman Tunis.
Yeah, so if I'm understanding Councilman Bennett's, like, say we regulate to where these are only allowed in R4 or R4 zoning areas, or R3, wouldn't that be discriminatory? Or
I mean, you have to provide for them, and you have to provide for them in at least one residential district in your township. That would, in my view, sustain a legal challenge. But then, as I said, is you have to decide which one, or multiple ones, whatever you decide to do.
Okay. Councilman Tunis?
Yeah, I think that my biggest fear with that is, like, currently in my district, there are a couple group homes and they're isolated from the rest of the township. Some of them don't even know they live in Upper Darby. So I do think that it would, I don't know if it would be discriminatory, but I just don't like the idea because it sounds to me that it should be placed in certain neighborhoods and not others. And I don't know how, that's not how I was raised in Upper Darby. I think that if we're gonna bring it to Upper Darby, it should be entitled or open to all districts, not just, let's just put it in this district and then we're just gonna keep them here. I don't think that's only that's the Upper Darby way.
Thank you. Councilman Tunis, were you not finished? Because you have another question. I may have moved on before you were ready. Councilman Silva? Did you have another question?
I did. I'm sorry. Yes. It's my understanding. Don't these, like, facilities already exist in the township in multiple?
Yep, they do. And if they And if they receive permitting or zoning relief at the time, they're grandfathered.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
yeah, because I know that there's some in
This
different
were-
residential zonings, so they would continue to exist. It would just
It
be,
would continue to exist, basically in zoning law, unless if a use is abandoned, meaning that the use stops being used as that use for at least a year, unless there's a fire or force majeure, act of God kind of situation, that use continues. So the fact that town council goes ahead and changes that use doesn't affect the uses that are grandfathered and continually going. It's for new applications that come in after this ordinance is adopted.
okay. And I guess one final question then, if we were to say, put some kind of modification on this to say it's only applicable to R3 districts or something, wouldn't they still be eligible for a special exception in another district?
No. They would be a permitted use in a district subject to these special exceptions. They wanted to go in other districts, it would probably be a variance, which is a much higher legal standard. Much harder to
Okay.
get.
All right, thank you.
So I guess the question is, what does
I mean,
council?
maybe Council President Wentz, if you want to send it back to committee one more time to explore this issue and see if there's any resolution to it or suggestions that are palatable to,
Okay.
majority of councilors,
Okay.
Up to you though, whatever.
What do you think, Councilman Gwynn? I mean, Councilman Gwynn, do you want to check with your committee to see what they want to do with this resolution, whether they want to move it forward as is, or if they want to go back and
Let's call them right now.
all right, work your magic.
Michelle, give me your input.
I say keep it as is.
Hafiz,
Yeah, I think we should move this forward.
and Don,
Back to committee.
you want back to committee? Okay. Myself, I know that we have had this hanging around for a while. And I have the feeling that to some extent, people look at it and say, it's a good idea. Let's have that any place but my area. And I feel that that's where some people in the township have had in the past. I think that this is something that we've discussed, and I think it should come out and move on. So I'd like to see it go before the council, because I don't think we are confident in terms of changing the architecture of this ordinance.
So are
in
you
any significant fashion?
So are you comfortable with it having its first reading tonight, and then go through the public notices part of the equation?
Let me hear Mr. Burnett again.
Okay, Councilman Burnett.
Okay, thank you. I think this has far-reaching impact on our community. There are very strong feelings about these kinds of facilities. There have been relatively recent zoning cases heard in Upper Darby.
Yes.
I think one particularly in the 3rd district that brings a lot of people, brought a lot of people out in opposition to a similar type home or facility. I think we need to take some public input on this. I think it deserves to go back to committee. I think our community deserves to be heard about this. I think more so than can be afforded them an opportunity that would be available at our next council meeting when we consider adoption of this and have a public hearing. I think we need to vet this a bit better because of its wide and far-reaching impact that it will have.
Just wanted to clarify that based on what Solicitor Kilkenny had stated earlier, it's not saying that would be voted on this month. It's something that would be voted on later between the public notices that need to be made, the public hearings that have to happen, it going to the county before it comes back for an official vote with us. So there is a lot of opportunity for people to weigh in. So I just wanted to re-clarify what our solicitor did say about that. And I see Councilman Tunis and I believe Councilwoman Billups wanted to respond. So Councilman Tunis.
Please.
Yeah, no, I agree with Councilman Barnett in the sense that the public does need to absolutely weigh in on this, and they do need to have they need to have their voices heard. I just don't think the alternative of just placing them in certain districts and not in others or certain neighborhood is the proper alternative. And I think that this is a position that the residents can take a look at it if they want to add something. If they have questions, they'll have that opportunity. So that's why I really believe we should just move this forward and let the residents have opportunity to give us their input.
And Ms. Billups?
Thank you. I agree with my colleague, both of my colleagues. I agree that the residents need to have their voices heard. Mm-hmm. But as you stated, Council President Wentz, it still has to go through other processes before a final decision is made. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So we're not deciding anything tonight, correct? Did I hear you say that? Or
we're just deciding to move it forward so that it can start all that process.
So it can start the
For
process.
advertising.
So it can start the process. Okay.
So we can start having the public hearing, so we can start hearing from the residents so that it can go through all the protocol that it has to go to because it's a change to our zoning hearing board.
Okay.
Ordinance.
Keeping in mind that if we sit on our thumbs and do nothing, then they can go any place, at any time.
Right.
Well, that's if a validity challenge was successful.
Yeah,
That's
what you're suggesting.
Right.
Right.
So,
and then if something comes up along the way and because our current ordinance has the 1,000 feet in its ordinance, that if someone challenges that, we would lose in court because it has lost in court on other cases. So we're leaving ourselves open to unnecessary litigation that we would lose if we didn't move forward with this ordinance to make the corrections to our local laws to fix those things.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Okay. I see Councilman Burke and then I see Barnett.
Thank you, President Wentz. Before this moves forward, we'll get clarification from Director McSween about the items that I brought up, correct? Before it's rewritten or advertised?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Barnett.
Thank you. I just, again, want to say to my colleagues on council that by adopting this the way it is presented this evening, we're giving a clear path. We're creating a right to do this in every residential district. We don't need to do that. We've heard from our solicitor that we don't need to do that. I find that it would be inappropriate to create such a easy path to create these in every one of our residential districts. I think we have the obligation to consider the effective impact. It will have an impact on real estate values. It's said to have in the past, and it is recognized as a unfavorable permitted use by most people. most people that I've spoken with. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I don't see that we have the need to allow this to happen in every district. I think that we would be considerate if we were, in fact, to allow this to happen in at least one residential district and perhaps only one residential district. And we will have, I believe, met our obligation to protect our other residential districts from one of these facilities being constructed or operated, I should say. So I think we have an obligation to meet the requirement of the law, but we do not have the obligation to allow it to be applied in every one of our residential districts.
Council President Wentz, we've heard
Yes.
from the committee, and I was just wondering if you could call the question to see if we can move this forward.
Yes. So
For
thank you.
advertising.
Yep.
For advertising, yeah.
Well, no, we're about to, so with the call to the question, yes, let's, can we get a motion to introduce and advertise, or to advertise, really more, whatever.
So moved.
Advertise, ordinance number 3092. I heard,
Yes, President Wentz, so moved.
Seconded.
And seconded by Councilman Siddiq. Any questions or concerns on the advertisement of this ordinance? Okay, Councilman Burke.
When are we actually advertising this? We have to check.
So, what would happen, Councilor Burke, is I would clean up the text additions we brought up here. I would, we'll get clarification from Mr. McSween. I'll recirculate that to council, what's today, Wednesday? Probably by Friday or something like that, I would guess. And then this would be advertised for probably the second meeting in March. That's when probably the timing would work out. I have to look at that and look at all the MPC requirements. It usually takes about 30 to 45 days.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. So can we get a, Councilwoman Billups, can we get a roll call on advertising ordinance 3092?
Yes. This is roll call for advertising ordinance 3092. Councilman Kunis?
Yes.
Councilman Gwynn?
Yes.
Councilman Billups is a yes. Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Councilwoman Blackwell?
Yes.
Councilman Burke?
Yes.
Councilman Siddiq?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faralia?
No.
Councilman Barnett?
No.
Councilman Wagner?
No.
Okay.
Excuse me, what about me?
I'm sorry, Council President Wentz.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
So the ordinance number 3092 moves on to advertisement, 8 to 3. So thank you all very much for the healthy discussion. At this point in time, Councilman Gwynn, would you like to continue on with your zoning board committee report?
I'm sorry. 3092, that was it.
Yes, well, but do you want to check to see if anyone else has any more?
Anybody from the committee have anything for the zoning? Anybody from council? Anybody from the administration? Seeing none, hearing none, moved on.
Awesome. So next up, we have Finance and Appropriations Committee, co-chairs Gwynn and Silva, members Blackwell and Burke. Take it away, Councilman Gwynn.
Anybody have anything for the committee, from the committee? Matt, you have anything?
Sure, I do. Thank you, sir. Yeah, we had a meeting yesterday, with the chairs of finance and the chairs of municipal services, in which we divided up the portions of resolution 421 for further review. So I just wanted to let everyone know that we had that meeting and that we're looking forward to try to clarify and make sense of what we saw in resolution 421. And we do, again, as council president said, appreciate the solicitors for bringing this matter to our attention, that this clarification needs to be made so that our residents know what the fee structure ultimately will be and what the fees are actually for. And we try to, streamline this process as much as possible and make it make sense for everyone. So that's all I have, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Danielle, do you have anything?
So since we've divided that committee, would you elaborate for the constituents what that process will be about?
Well, no, we're basically, that resolution is 11 pages, 8 pages, which are like kind of most or have a lot of questions. Basically, the solicitors took all the fees that were established throughout the decades, I'm assuming, of ordinances, and compiled them all together. Considering the undertaking of that, we've broken that resolution up into different sections, and then we sent council president would have sent an email out to different committees that would take a look at different sections of that resolution to try to basically, just because it would be an overwhelming amount of work for 4 people to do. And then also this way, all members of council would have a potential for input. We do urge any residents that have any concerns with anything they saw in 421 to please bring it to your council person's attention or to the council's attention. Any input would be greatly appreciated. So I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure if that's completely done.
Councilman Silva, has there been a time frame on that?
So
I'm sorry, go ahead, Council President Wentz.
I sent out I broke, based on how it was broken down, I consolidated each committee's list onto a Word document. I emailed it to all committee members of each committee last night. I emailed it out last night to every committee what represented their assignments. And the request is that within the next 2 weeks that the committees meet to discuss them. I CC'd the solicitors, the mayor and CAO Rangione on every single email, so they knew that when the chairs of the committees reached out to them for a specific meeting, they knew exactly what part of that resolution was going to be on the topic of conversation, and that if the council committee was requesting a department head to take part, they understood. They all had an opportunity to look over that section of that resolution that would be part of the conversation. So that all got emailed out last night around 11 o'clock at night to everyone on each committee. So check your email because it should be there. And then that way, when chairs reached out to CAO Rangione, he knows exactly what's happening. He can share the information with the department heads and they can help facilitate these meetings. And hopefully we can make this happen within the next 2 weeks. Once you finalize your assignment, you get everything worded in a way that makes sense. You then forward it to myself and the municipal committee chairs, municipal services committee chairs, and CAO and the mayor, just to make sure, and solicitors.
Thank you, Councilwoman President Wentz.
And then I'm not actually done, so, and then the municipal service will take all of those parts and put it all back together again, make sure they agree with it, and then send it out to CAO, mayor, myself, and the solicitors for their review as well. Now
So we send it out to you, the solicitors, and also,
municipal services chairs are Councilman Siddiq and Tunis Jr. So when you've completed your task, then you send it back to us, and we will take it from there. It's in your email. Check your email.
Yes, and
from
thank you
11
for
o'clock
including
last
us,
night, right?
Council President.
You're
Sorry.
welcome. Yes, around 11 o'clock. I was tired, but I did send it on. I sent all of them out.
Thank you, President Wentz.
And the solicitors got their own assignments too, of things that we weren't really sure about, and we needed more clarification from them. So, yes. So thank you. And CEO Rangione, yes, I thought it was really important for you guys to know what we were doing, so that you could respond accordingly to each issue before the different committees. So,
Yeah,
Thank you.
great. Okay,
Thank you.
great. Councilman Gwynn?
Okay, anybody else from council wish to bring something to the committee? Anybody in the administration wishes to bring anything to this the committee, finance? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on.
Great, thank you. Next up is Leisure Services Committee, co-chairs Tunis Jr. and Silva, members Councilwoman Faralia and Blackwell. Take it away, gentlemen.
We just have to, Matt and I have to connect with our committee with some of the stuff that Leisure Services will cover regarding Resolution 0421. So expect an email this week from either Matt or myself. Does anyone on the committee have anything to bring forward?
I do. I would like for Councilman Silva to give a brief on the outlook that we did.
At Chapman Park?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Daniel. I don't know if I'm qualified to give a brief, but I'm going to give it the old college try.
You're absolutely qualified.
Okay, I'm not sure, but Councilwoman Blackwell and I did visit Chapman Park. We had we sent a notice out to the other committee members as well, and it was our effort, I guess, to try to review the park again as the mayor's commission on recreation is reviewing that park for possibly trying to get funding for it, and try to determine what some needs are for that park, and to try to just make that park a better location for the residents in that area.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we've identified some potential improvements, and I forwarded that to the commission. But actually, I should have. I don't know if I CC'd you, Danielle, on that, but I will actually send what I sent to Mr. Miller to the rest of the committee. So I apologize if I did not do that.
You did not.
From the mayor's commission.
Oh, committee. I'm sorry. It's yeah.
Right. The Parks and Recs Committee. So Councilman Silva, can you CC myself and Mayor and CAO on it? I don't know if they were CC'd.
I don't believe, no, I sent it directly to the chair of that committee, but I will forward
forward
that
it on to us.
Yes.
And me, please.
Yes. Thank you. I will, Lisa. Okay.
Thank you.
Also, while we were reviewing that, I can't, what was that back of that road that had so many potholes? Do you recall that?
Yes. La Cara
Okay.
Road. And there were pretty impressive. And I believe I sent a request to the request line, but yeah, but that's LaCar. But I don't know if that's leisure services. That would be different.
Whatever that road is, it needs to be looked at because it is a hazard.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty large. Well, that was an alleyway.
Right. We went through an alleyway where I was following him up the street, and it's very dangerous.
Unfortunately, alleyways fall into a different realm of existence.
Okay, so unfortunately, thank you. Appreciate it.
I think the best thing we can
It's
do
under
is we can
property
get
maintenance.
like pictures of it and see what course of action we can do. It's easy to say alleyways or this and that. We haven't really seen a graphic of it. And
Okay, so good. We'll take another look at that. Council, thank you.
Yeah, we can do that.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing a solution to this problem.
Yeah, is there anything else from any of the members on the Leisure Service Committee?
No, thank you.
Anything, Councilwoman Feralia?
No, Hafiz, I'm good.
Okay, any council members?
No, sir.
All right, Council President wants, unless you have any questions, I think we're good.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for checking out the park. So next up, we have Public Safety Committee co-chairs Blackwell and Burke, council members Tunis Jr. and Silva. Take it away.
I got it, Danielle. Does anybody from the committee have anything to bring forward?
Nothing on my end, Brian.
Okay. I just have one thing for administration. I know I brought it up the last meeting or meeting before. Got a lot of things juggling right now, but we get involved in that parking permit, get a couple streets on both sides of the town for parking permit. Maybe we get a conversation with Director Coles in the next couple of meetings, next couple of weeks to see if, unless you guys are started that already.
No, we haven't started it yet, and happy to have the conversation for sure.
Yeah, I know it's on the hit list there from 6 months ago. So
right.
So, anybody from council have anything to bring forward?
The only thing I have is make sure that you have a meeting on your assignment from 0421.
Yeah, I got that email last night.
Okay.
See none, hear none. President Wensek finishes the committee report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next up is Public Health and Environmental Affairs Committee, co-chairs Tunis Jr. and Silva. Members are Billups and Sadiq. Take it away.
Do any members, you have it? Oh, okay.
No, you got it.
Oh, I have it. Oh, thank you. All right. All right. Does any members of the committee have anything to bring forward at this time?
Yes. So we moved our initiative regarding the homelessness from our committee to this committee. So we have to evaluate that and state that has happened.
Yes, and actually we are, yes, we've moved it from the events committee to public health just because it seemed like it made more sense. Right. But actually was going to ask that we have a meeting proposed at this time on the 8th
yes.
to meet with SEPTA, and we were hoping that you could actually join us for that. And furthermore, like we're also doing some outreach. We're trying to meet with the county to determine. There's a couple things that are sort of sticking points with the homeless initiative that we would like to sort of rectify. There's no set standard as to what code blue means here. There's no set telephone number where people can reach to find help or to let people know about vulnerable populations that need help.
Exactly.
yeah, there are two numbers that apply at two different times. It's a somewhat confusing system. We would like to try to get that rectified. We're hoping to be able to meet with someone from the county to correct that. These things seem simple. They don't seem like overwhelmingly like huge hurdles, but it would definitely streamline the process. But yes, and then we're going to probably try to proceed with the project similarly as planned. We've been given a lot of help from Shira Alberts with this project as well, because she's a local member of the community that's been very active with this. And we just, look forward to trying to make a real functioning change that could to help people that desperately need it. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Councilwoman Blackwell?
No, you've covered most of the bases. Thank you.
So just want to verify you would like CAO Rongioni and Mayor Keffer and myself to join you at that meeting? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure we were clear on who you wanted to join you.
Thank you.
I'm concerned if there's, that would be a quorum.
Is Councilwoman Phillips attending? That's right. Then I can step back so she can.
Well, yeah, I am attending because I was the one that started this whole thing.
Oh, no, you're on public health, right? But you're on public health. So
Well,
right.
it was started because of my my son-in-law.
It's Miss Blackwell that's also attending. So I'll step back so that Councilwoman Blackwell.
It was started because my son-in-law initiated this, so it wasn't exactly started because of that.
Well,
Maybe I
I mean,
misunderstood.
regardless, it's important work that needs to happen. So
And I just
want to start it. It needs to happen.
Right. It's an issue that we've all been talking about for years. And Mayor Keffer and I met with the homeless shelter that's across, from the Township building in 2018. So it's actually something that we have been discussing, and it has been a great concern to many council members for a couple years and beyond. So I'm just saying, I would just want to clarify who was being invited so that we have, so everyone.
Are we allowed to do that, Council President? I mean, do we have to have a quorum to have a discussion?
No, we cannot have a quorum. It's the opposite.
So the point is, I'm just verifying who's on the committee, and the fact that you'll also be taking part, then I would need to step back so that there's that space for you all to be a part of that meeting. I just want to be updated on what's happening so that I can, also weigh in, even though it's not by attending that specific meeting. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And I just want to point out, Councilman Wagner has had his hand up, and I wasn't sure if I missed you earlier, Councilman Wagner.
No, you didn't. I'm good until you get to other members of council who might want to comment on this. Thank you.
Okay, great. I just wanted to not miss you. And then I did just see Councilman.
You didn't miss me.
Okay. All right. So.
Are there any other members of the committee of public health that would like to, that have any matters to bring forth?
I do, Silva, Mr. Silva.
Oh, yes, Councilman Siddiq.
Yeah, any update? It's kind of old business. Any update regarding the homelessness around 69th Street and they're begging in the street?
Yeah, that's what we're kind of meeting on.
That's what we're talking about.
Traffic light.
Councilman Siddiq.
And we'll make sure that you're in the loop in the next meeting. The whole goal is to figure out how we can find a solution to what's been happening on 69th Street, beyond 69th Street. There's believe it or not, there's people that don't have homes that gather around Drexel Line too. So it's not just a 69th Street issue, but 69th Street might be the most prevalent, or something, the one you may see the most, especially being a 6th District councilman. But I believe the steps we're taking now will give us a fundamental plan that we can bring forward to council in the future. But it's not an overnight process, and it's something that I wish I can just fix like this. And
it's not just 69th Street. We're trying to deal at all the quarters. We're not just do 69th Street. We're doing Norristown. We're doing up at the other end of 69th Street. We're trying to do every area. We're not trying to do just Upper Darby. We're trying to all of us get together to work together to fix this issue. We're not working in silos anymore.
Well,
Well, I'm
we
not. I'm
do-
I'm sorry
Yeah.
if I meant to say this is the 69th Street is the more visible area for the homelessness. That's I meant to say.
69th Street,
Yeah.
move from
But it
downtown.
is not, even it is 69th Street, even it is in my street, is a problem of the township.
Exactly.
That I
agree with you.
understand that thing. That I understand that thing. That's why. Also, one thing I want to update that do not send any information to my ORG account. Please send it to my email account, Hafiz, please.
Can you please share that with
Shaksidi@AOL.com. Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you, please.
I think
share.
I have it. I could,
oh,
yeah, I'll make
okay.
sure we send it to that account. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have in public health.
I just want to clarify that it is important for us to work with other municipalities around us, but we also have to focus our energy on Upper Darby Township because that is who we represent. And I just
Well,
want
of
to make
course.
sure, please let me finish my sentence. We have to make sure that we have what we need to do set in a plan. And then from there, we can work with other jurisdictions about the problem because it is a traveling problem on a variety of issues. But our focus is Upper Darby, and we, of course, do want to work with our surrounding communities on issues like this. But I just want to clarify that our focus and where we have a say in the government part of the equation and the creation of the laws and resolutions and so forth is in Upper Darby. And that is where our focus should be, with, as well as taking part in coalitions dealing with these issues. And I just want to make sure it's clear because it's starting to sound a little distracted. We haven't figured out our plan yet. And I need to figure out our plan before we.
As a member of the committee, like we're still trying to figure things out. I think the best thing we should do now is just wait for our next meeting. Councilman Wagner has had his hand up. I don't know if anybody else on our committee have anything else to say. We've kind of been talking in circles now, so I think it's best if we just move forward.
Yeah, if I could too. Yeah, sorry. We also have to assess. Like, I think before we talk to the county, it's hard to establish what our next steps are because we don't know what the current procedure truly is. So that I agree. I think that does make the most sense. But
Then you should just tell us what the current procedure is.
we're attempting to have the meetings to do that.
Question and go to Councilman Wagner.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah, for the moving to all of council, then who has issue with the health department, for the health department?
Councilman Wagner?
Thanks very much. I'll be really brief. All of us, I have no doubt, are very sincerely concerned about the homeless. It's an extremely serious problem. Just as a suggestion, I don't know the extent to which we have reached out to SEPTA for resources that they may be able to help us with in Upper Darby. SEPTA has a project known as the Hub of Hope, which has been around for several years now and has done great things for the homeless. And I'm just offering that as a suggestion that we reach out to them, not to join their project, but rather to see what they can do to help Upper Darby. I would bet that they would be very welcoming of that kind of approach. Secondly, though, with respect to public health issues, the biggest one at the moment is the vaccine. And I'm well aware that is not Upper Darby's responsibility to vaccinate people. I am not for a moment suggesting that it is. But I am suggesting there may be things we can do to help people in their access to the vaccine, which is not going well in Pennsylvania so far. And I'm wondering if there are ways that we could improve the public's knowledge of and access to ways to get the vaccine, I think that could be a very useful, if temporary, priority for us.
CAO, you want to?
Yeah, sure. No, I couldn't agree with Councilman Wagner more. It's a very good point. We have had some conversations with the county about trying to find a location for a vaccination site inside of Upper Darby Township, whether that would be a building that's already owned by the township or an available piece of commercial property that the township could rent on, or I'm sorry, not the township, that the county could rent on a short-term basis. So one of the things that we've been doing is trying to find a location for a vaccination site in the township. But I think you're absolutely right in terms of access to information and access to appointments. We probably should do more and better in terms of our township social media and website. And possibly if council wanted to work with the administration on any kind of press event or press availability where we could publicize that information, I think that would be a very helpful thing, because I know lots of people in my own family, and I'm sure all of our families, are clicking around on the internet and trying to find appointments everywhere. So yeah, anything that we could do to raise awareness on that would be very helpful.
Yes, I believe council would definitely like to assist in any type of form of education or press conference in reference to sharing knowledge. And I see Councilwoman Billups and Tunis. Billups? You need to unmute yourself.
Councilman Tunis had his hand up first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Tunis.
Thank you, Councilwoman Billups. I just wanted to double check with Councilman Wagner. You said it's Hub of Hope?
Yes, that's the name.
Okay. And then also, I think I do agree with the vaccination. A big issue that I've seen is the county has a hotline, and then they also have like a online like survey. A lot of our residents aren't tech savvy or don't have access to computers, and sometimes they just get stuck on a hotline and they tend to just like get tired of, you know what I mean? So I think that if we can share some of the numbers and the hotlines, or walking maybe on the council page, and we can work with the administration with this, maybe a screenshot of walking through how it works on the computer, because it's really confusing for residents.
Okay.
Hub of Hope is located at Jefferson Station in Center City. It's a great place. Homeless people can go there for a various of things. Project Home also have something like that at 30th Street Station, where it's a cafe where they can go, where people can go. I know it's not in Upper Darby, but those are things that are already in existence. Project Home, Pathways to Housing, those are places that that hopefully that we can connect with. Even though we know the homeless problem is not going to disappear overnight, you know, those are things that people that we can connect with. That's my first thing. Second thing is I might also have some resources as far as where you can do vaccines and everything, because my other job is at Temple. So, and we were on that whole thing with developing a vaccine. So I might be able to get some information about that for council.
Great.
I just want to put that out there. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Any other members from council? And again, thank you, Councilman Wagner. I didn't really get a chance, but and everyone else for their input. But any other members of council have anything to put forward for health and environmental? Seeing none, I believe that conducts our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Municipal Services Licensing and Public Works Committee, co-chairs Sadiq and Tunis Jr. and council members Wagner and Burke.
Yeah, so I sent out an email. I got a response I sent out an email regarding an upcoming committee meeting to discuss resolution 0421. I got a response from Councilman Burke and Wagner. I sent it to Councilman Sadiq's previous email, but I'm going to resend it to the new email that you'll provide with me today. And I hope for us to meet sometime next week to discuss this and see how we can move forward. And
Yeah,
anything from your end, Sadiq?
we will definitely do it. And I would like to mention that the yesterday meeting was very fruitful, and it will distribute the job to the other committees, so everybody can have a fair share with this one. And I would like to thanks on behalf of the Municipal Service Licensing and Public Committee, the Public Works, which is trust people. Thank you so much, doing the excellent job during this snowstorm. And we are looking forward to have meeting all the committee heads, so we can work together.
Okay, anybody else?
May I continue?
Yeah, is there anyone else from your committee that has
Yeah,
something?
Mr. Wagner?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
How about Mr. Brian?
I'm good, thank you.
You sure you're good?
Absolutely.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You didn't ask me if I was sure.
Anybody in the council? Anybody council have any issue or anything put forward this committee? I don't see nobody have anything, so I don't hear anything. So that's conclude the report.
Okay. And then we have the Event Planning Committee, Co-Chairs Billups and Blackwell, members Tunis Jr. and Silva.
Thank you, Council President Wentz. So we started our highlighting African-American women for Black History Month. We highlighted 3 fabulous women so far, right? Today's the 3rd, right? Yeah. It's on our page, and we're going to continue until the end of the month. And we're going to have some regional people in there as well as local people, regional people, including people in the town, women in the township as well. I think that's all I have. Does anyone from the committee has anything else to add?
Yes.
Yeah.
So just
you can go again, yeah.
I'm sorry, Councilman Tunis. Go ahead.
Okay. What I was gonna ask, if there's any members of council that think they have like an African woman that they may not have seen or they want us to highlight, they could just email me their a bio of them and a picture or some sort. I could find the picture. You could just email me the bio of that person, and we could also add that. February has what, 28 days this month, so I got a couple more to do.
And you guys are also working on your awards for honoring Black History Month for our next meeting.
Yeah.
Right. So I make sure so we're going to also celebrate Black History Month from council at the next meeting with awards.
So anyone else from the committee?
Yes.
Yes, Councilwoman Blackwell.
So as a disclaimer, we put all the information on the website. If it's any data or information such as a doctor or any information that we don't include, we still highlight the information. So just to put that out there, that we're getting the information for valuable resources. And if we don't have all the data or information, it's there. Anybody can also please reply and give us feedback. We're welcome to it. We're open council.
I just want to clarify, we're posting it on our council Facebook page.
Exactly.
And as I come across comments, there was a comment today on something and we made corrections accordingly. So
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Wentz. Appreciate it.
Anyone else from the committee has anything? Anyone from council? Hearing none, that's it. Thank you.
Great. Next up is Law and Government and Rules and Procedures Committee, co-chairs Billups and Silva, and members Siddiq and Blackwell.
Anyone from the committee have anything to add? Anyone from council? Nobody have any law and government they want to ask us?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. It
No.
is 10:10.
Just checking. Okay. Seeing none, that concludes our report.
Great. Next up, we have solicitors. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Council President Wentz. It's been a long night and a busy night, so I'm going to keep my report pretty brief. Obviously, we worked extensively with council on this group home ordinance amendment. We've also worked with council on the other matters, such as Drexel Line and Chicane land development matters. Constantly work with staff on updating ordinances and things you'll see in the next couple months. That really concludes my report, unless the council has any specific questions we're working on. But myself and Courtney and John Walco are constantly working on Upper Darby matters.
Great, thank you. Council, any questions for solicitors? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to old business. Does anyone have any old business?
I do.
Councilman Siddiq?
I have two small old business. Number one, I believe the previous administration, we approved the residential hotel across from the Upper Darby Township. Any update that one? And also the old Sears building on 69th Street.
I'm sorry, I missed your first question.
I can answer that, Sadiq. It's about across from the Township building, Minerva Court Apartments.
Oh, right.
Yes.
I think it was towards the end of 2017. They had applied for and received approval from council for land development plan. Since that time, they've not submitted any permits or anything. So it's sort of like, I don't know exactly how long a land development plan is valid before it becomes like, I don't know, extinct or inert, but they haven't submitted. It hasn't moved forward at all. Council did, as you remember, we approved it, but it's going on 4 years now.
If they have approval of a plan, the MPC says you have 5 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Wow, so nothing happening then? Okay. And any update regarding Sears building, old Sears building?
Not really. We did have a meeting, it was probably about 2 weeks ago with the Ashkenazi group. And we were talking about surveillance cameras and what they're looking for in the future, but it's a tough market now. They know it's a very valuable piece of land and they do want to find tenants for it, but yeah, they're just, it was more like not a meet and greet, but it was like a catch-up meeting, but they don't have anything concrete right now. And you know what they did say? They're never selling any of that land. They're never selling it. Oh.
I have a buyer for that one. That's why I keep asking this one. So it's very important for our 69th Street because it's between District 6 and 7, and also it is beautifying, and also is populating the 69th Street market area. So it's good for the other business too if we can to do things over there. It's many years now, almost 10 years sitting down there.
No, yeah, definitely. They're real happy to hear about the plans for the community center, which is right across the street from the from the garage, right? The
Mhm.
Sears garage, and that they're
Right.
actively looking for tenants. They're not just sitting on their hands, but they are little. They still have to bounce back from being in the pandemic, and they're very much. They bring in national chains, right? Almost everything they own is a national chain. So that's what they're looking to bring in, and it's not moving, maybe as quickly as they would like. So.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for asking, though. Yeah.
Mayor Keffer, they looking for renters? Because since they don't want to sell the building?
They're looking for tenants, like they own the property, and then like Foot Locker is there,
right?
Gap, H&M, they own all that. So they're looking for some, a big name, kind of national chain to come in.
Well, they probably would have to do that entire building over.
I'm sorry?
They probably would have to do that entire building over.
I think that's probably part of it. So that cost involved in that kind of endeavor is part of maybe why they're having trouble finding somebody. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anyone else with old business? Okay, seeing none. New business? Was that a hand, Miss Councilwoman Blackwell? For new
Yes.
business? Okay.
Yes. So it's, you can tell me if I'm directing it at the right way, but any request that needs to be held regarding trash or snow removal, they can go to our helpline. So
The
if you
request
want to
line.
provide that information, pardon?
The request line, the mayor's
The
request line.
All right, so if they can provide that information, you can provide the information for you. Thank you, Councilman Wentz. President.
It's request@upperdarby.org.
All right, so please go to this helpline if you have any issues or any concerns regarding trash, snow, and we'll be able to help you.
Okay, great, thank you. Councilwoman Phillips.
Thank you, Council President Wentz. So I was looking on Nextdoor. I don't know if you guys know what that is, right? So I do it from time to time to see what's happening in the surrounding area and in Upper Darby. So I'm sure you probably know this, but it says natural gas work in your neighborhood, Upper Darby Township. So in 2020, PICO will be investing $7.8 million to enhance the local natural gas distribution system in Upper Darby Township. And then it goes on to tell you what all that is. So it says, what are the benefits of this work? These upgrades are a part of our plan to replace existing natural gas mains and service lines with new pipes, which enhance safety, are more durable, and improve service reliability. And what will this look like? If work is required at your property, we will meet with you to assess the current natural gas equipment location, discuss meter relocation, and answer any questions. So that's probably going to be happening. And they have a list of some neighborhoods of streets where it's happening at. Alexander Avenue, between Bloomfield Avenue and Huey Avenue, it says current construction. Anderson Avenue, Bloomfield Avenue, and Huey Avenue, current construction. Berry Avenue, Burmont Road, and Burnley Lane, current construction. Blythe Avenue, Bloomfield Avenue, and Huey Avenue, current construction. Burnley Lane, Berry Avenue, and Garrett Road, current construction. East Township Line Road, Grove Place, and Lynn Boulevard, current construction. Garrett Road, Burmont Road, and Burnley Lane, current construction. Huey Avenue, Wild Avenue, and Anderson Avenue, current construction. Lynn Boulevard, East Township Line Road, and South Bayberry Lane, current construction. Rosemont Avenue, Bloomfield Avenue, and Burnley Lane, current construction. School Lane, Wild Avenue, and Blythe Avenue, current construction. South Brighton Avenue, Delaware Avenue, and Westchester Pike, current construction. South Linden Avenue, Westchester Pike, and Delaware Avenue, current construction. Westchester Pike, South Harwood Avenue and Darby Road, East Township Line Road, and Windsor Avenue, current construction. And Wild Avenue, Rosemont Avenue, and School Lane, current construction.
Can you take a screenshot of that and send it to me and I'll post it on our council page?
Yep, I'm sending it to you right now.
Oh, my.
Awesome, you rock.
Okay.
And Councilman Burke?
Thank you, President Wentz. Just ask a question to the administration and to the solicitors. Are noise violations still is in effect during snowstorms? Am I correct about that with your landscapers out with your diesel trucks and snow blowing people's property at midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning? Is that correct?
There is no exception for weather. It's a matter of discretion and enforcement.
Okay. And what is the homeowner that has a problem with that? What is their solution? Unfortunately, 911 at midnight, correct?
Probably, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with new business?
I have one item.
Okay, Councilman Siddiq?
There will be COVID test this Saturday and Sunday in 201 South 69th Street in Upper Darby, Medina Masjid Islamic Center. I'm going to send the information to you, and then you can post it to our council page.
Okay.
This
Thank you.
Saturday, Sunday, this is going to be 1 to 4 o'clock for 3 hours. This is free. All you have to bring the ID.
Do they have
Registration.
to register?
Register link and the other flyer. I'm going to send it to you so you can put it on the web page.
Great.
And
Thank you.
hopefully we're going to do it for this weekend, also the next weekend.
Great.
That's all I have. New item.
Great. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Gwen? Second?
Second.
Black girl. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say your name. Ayes have it.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Mike.
Have a great night.
Good night.